Chapter 541. The Crimson Dragon was enraged. As a member of the Divine Dragon clan, he was the leader of the spiritual beasts in the world. But now he was being mocked by a little monkey. This was intolerable. Then he rushed out again and pounced at the little monkey. The Crimson Dragon was enraged. He pounced at the little monkey. The little white monkey had a mocking look on its face. Then with a swoosh it disappeared. When it reappeared, it was already beside the Crimson Dragon. Its furry little paw quickly landed on the dragon's head. Bang! The Crimson Dragon felt dizzy. Countless little stars appeared in his eyes. Finally he fell to the ground. Ouch! My dragon mother, why did I faint? The Crimson Dragon got up from the ground with a suspicious look. Impossible. How could a little monkey knock this emperor out? Goddamn brat, what did you do to me? Lin Xian sneered. His figure flashed and appeared beside the Crimson Dragon. I've eaten many demonic beasts, but I've never eaten dragon meat. I wonder how it tastes. Lin Xian smiled. What? You little worm dare to eat me? The Crimson Dragon roared. However, Lin Xian ignored it completely. He grabbed the Crimson Dragon and pulled it casually. The elasticity is not bad. Your meat must be very fragrant. Damn it, it's going to break. Let go. The Crimson Dragon cursed. Then Lin Xian turned his palm. A ball of flame formed by spirit energy appeared and quickly enveloped the Crimson Dragon. Hot, hot, hot. The Crimson Dragon kept rolling, but those that touched the flaming scales were fine. They could not cause any damage to him. What a strong defense. Lin Xian was surprised. Then he flicked his finger. Golden lightning surged and quickly formed a lightning blade. He slashed at the Crimson Dragon. For a moment, the sea of lightning around the Crimson Dragon surged, forming a terrifying energy. The Crimson Dragon screamed. He quickly circled around, trying to escape from the sea of lightning. Now that he had lost his dragon essence and his cultivation, he was only at the harmonious spirit realm. He could not break through the sea of lightning. However, although he was crazily shouting, there was not a single wound on his body. The red scales were shining brightly, and not even a trace of lightning was left behind. Alright, stop pretending. You didn't even leave a single scar, so what are you screaming for? Lin Xian curled his lips. Fuck, what do you know? Not getting hurt doesn't mean it won't hurt. Why don't I try electrocuting you? It's good that you know the pain. Who told you to want to eat me? Lin Xian pulled out the Wind Shadow Sword, and the Great Dragon Sword intent gushed out. Fuck kid, you're serious? Sensing the sword intent, the Red Divine Dragon could not remain calm. With a flash of sword light, the Wind Shadow Sword instantly chopped down on the dark red dragon's body, emitting a sound of metal clashing. Sparks flew in the air as the dark red dragon screamed and was sent flying. Lin Xian reached out his hand and pulled it back. Then he clicked his tongue in wonder. The large success sword intent actually didn't leave a single mark on it. This Red Divine Dragon was indeed incomparably tough. Goddamn kid, this emperor is in so much pain. The Red Divine Dragon was about to cry. He didn't have any strength now and was purely relying on the tyrannical defense of his body. However, he couldn't avoid the pain at all. Especially Lin Xian's sword intent, it was so painful that he was about to cry. Alright little Schwanzi, don't try anymore. That stupid dragon's cultivation is too high. You can't break through his defense. Why don't you try the Great Dragon Sword Soul? Lin Xian touched it. Forget it. Wine Lord snorted. Although you've fused with the Great Dragon Sword Soul with your current strength, you can't even use 10% of its power. Also, don't let anyone know that you have the Great Dragon Sword Soul. Otherwise, I'm afraid there won't be a place for you in this world. Wine Lord said solemnly. Alright, I know. Lin Xian nodded. This stupid dragon can be considered an old monster. He must be quite knowledgeable. Perhaps he can be of some use by your side, Wine Lord said. Why do I feel like you're making arrangements for your funeral? Lin Xian asked, puzzled. I do have to leave. Wine Lord sighed. But I still have things to do. I didn't have the strength before, so I was trapped here. Now that I've recovered part of my strength and can control the devouring sword, it's time to leave. You're really leaving? Lin Xian's expression darkened. Wine Lord had been with him all these years, teaching him with all his heart. He could be said to be both a teacher and a father. Lin Xian was already familiar with Wine Lord's existence. Now that Wine Lord was leaving, he felt extremely uncomfortable. Alright little Schwanzi, I have to go. Wine Lord said, I believe we'll meet again. Then where are you going? How do I find you in the future? Lin Xian asked. The depths of this world. When you're strong enough in the future, you can naturally come find me. Lin Xian was taken aback as he was alarmed. He naturally knew what world Lord Alcohol was referring to. It wasn't the continent he was on, but the world within the mysterious little sword in his body. He originally thought that it was a special space within the mysterious little sword. Now, it seemed that there were many secrets that he didn't know about. Don't worry, Wine Lord. I'll definitely find out all the secrets and look for you, Lin Xian said solemnly. I believe that day will come. Wine Lord smiled. Then he left a black imprint in Lin Xian's body. I've left a mark that can help you in a critical moment. Remember, don't use it unless your life is in danger. Lin Xian nodded to show that he understood. Finally, Wine Lord used Devour again, forming black holes around Lin Xian. When this scene appeared, the red divine dragon in the outside world was stunned. Mother Dragon, that black hole appeared again. The red divine dragon screamed and tried to escape. However, a strong and powerful hand appeared from the vortex and caught him. Hero, please spare me. You've already absorbed all my dragon essence. I really don't have anything left. The red divine dragon was on the verge of tears. As a member of the divine dragon race, there weren't many people in the world who could restrain him. But now he was being controlled by a large hand and couldn't struggle at all. He didn't even know who the other party was. I'll borrow your dragon essence for a while. Stay by this young man's side and help him. I'll definitely return it to you in the future. Really? The dark red divine dragon was stunned, then pleasantly surprised. The dragon essence was related to his cultivation source. Once it was lost, it couldn't be recovered without a few thousand years. Although he was a member of the divine dragon race, he wasn't immortal. Only God knew if he could hold on for a few more thousand years. Without dragon essence and energy, with his identity as an Eastern divine dragon, he would definitely be captured and refined into medicine. That was why he was so anxious and sad about the dragon essence. Of course it's true. Do you think I'd lie to you? Wine Lord snorted. Hee hee, that's good, that's good. The red divine dragon breathed a sigh of relief. With the other party's means, he was definitely a powerful figure. This kind of person always kept his word and definitely wouldn't lie to him. However, as a divine dragon, he was very dissatisfied that he had to follow a little worm and help him. But in the current situation, he had no choice but to agree. Alright, little Xian, this stupid dragon shouldn't be a problem. I think you should be able to control it. Chapter 542. With that, the black hole disappeared. Inside the mysterious tiny sword, Lord Alcohol controlled the sword of devouring and quickly ran deep before disappearing. Wine Lord, Lin Xian's soul was in the mysterious sword. He stood there like a statue as he watched the figure disappear. He wanted to chase after it, but he found that he could only walk within 100 feet. He couldn't go anywhere else. I will improve my strength quickly. I will also understand the secrets of this mysterious sword as soon as possible. Lin Xian clenched his fist and said. Wine Lord left with the devouring sword. Lin Xian had to walk the rest of the path alone. However, he had been learning alchemy and array martial arts from Wine Lord all these years. He was now able to stand on his own. Now that he had obtained the great dragon sword soul, his strength and foundation had increased by a lot. Therefore, Lin Xian was confident that he could walk the rest of the path well. Then, his soul left the mysterious sword and returned to his body. Kid, I'm warning you. I'm only following you because I want to get back my dragon essence. Don't push your luck. Don't expect me to do anything. Do you understand? You look like a snake. Do you have the ability to do anything? Li Xian sneered. I think I'll make you into a leather belt. Fuck. The dark red dragon was furious. It was so angry that it stomped its feet. However, there was nothing it could do. It could only curse in its heart. Suddenly, Lin Xian raised his head and looked into the distance. He frowned slightly. With his sharp soul power, he could naturally sense that many martial artists were rushing over. Among them there were a few powerful auras. Lin Xian sighed. His body swayed, and he left with the snow-white fox and the dark red dragon. Although his strength had increased greatly, he didn't want others to know that he had the great dragon sword soul. This thing was too shocking. Not to mention a venerable, even a king would go crazy if they knew. However, there were too many martial artists nearby. It didn't take long for him to be recognized. Kid, it's you. The demon siblings sneered. They descended from the sky and blocked Lin Xian's path. I let you go last time. Let's see how you escape this time. It's actually a two-headed monster. The dark red divine dragon was astonished. Judging from its aura, could it be the descendant of that stupid three-headed bird? Humph, A snake dares to insult the holy bird of my holy bird palace. You're courting death. The monster brother snorted coldly. Its scales aren't bad. Plucking them off to make a belt would be pretty good. The little monster sister also laughed. Motherfucker, you're the snake, your whole family are snakes. The dark red dragon was enraged. Are your dog eyes blind? This emperor is so handsome, how can I be a snake? He roared angrily. Of course, he did not dare to say that he was a divine dragon. Otherwise, he would be done for if he was captured and refined into medicine. No matter what you are, your skin is not bad. I want you to be my belt. The monster sister clapped her hands and laughed. Little girl, I'm angry. The dark red dragon was going crazy. Brat, get rid of them for me. Little snake, be quiet. Otherwise, I'll really make you into a belt. Lin Xian frowned. This dark red dragon was too noisy. How was he laughing at a divine dragon? He was simply a hooligan. A bunch of bastards. When this emperor recovers his dragon essence, he'll roast all of you and eat you. The dark red dragon said hatefully in his heart. At this time, Jiu Moyan, Yu Qingqing and the others also arrived. When they saw Lin Xian, they were also slightly cold. Since Lin Xian defeated them last time, he had not appeared for several months. They did not expect him to appear here today. Especially Jiu Moyan and the other disciples of the Holy Bird Palace, they were especially jealous. Senior brother, you must catch this little thief and cut him into pieces. The disciples of Holy Bird Palace gritted their teeth and said, Don't worry, it's just a little thief. I can kill him in one move. The monster brother and sister were very arrogant. If it wasn't for the appearance of the indigenous warriors from the Lost Lands, he would have killed Lin Xian with one move and things wouldn't have turned out this way. Little thief, I'll give you a chance to live. You were sneaking around here just now. Did you find something? The monster brother and sister asked. Tell me, did you find any treasure here? If you hand it over, we can consider leaving you an intact corpse. The monster sister also laughed. Hearing this, everyone's heart was burning. They all looked at Lin Xian. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Don't you think it's too noisy to have two heads each? Anyway, I'm annoyed to death. How about this, I'll kill one of you. This way you'll be quieter. You guys discuss, which one do you want me to kill? Lin Xian's body was suffused with a sword intent. Wah, little thief, you're courting death. You dare to sow discord between us siblings? You're dead for sure. A giant death scythe appeared in the monster brother's hand. If I've decided, I'll definitely take your head and make it into the most beautiful specimen. The monster sister also took out a giant fan and formed a wind force that surrounded them. Then the air condensed and became more and more heavy. Many warriors retreated in fear because their breathing and blood were about to freeze. The monster brother and sister were too powerful. They belonged to the top of the younger generation and were not someone they could contend against. This brat is dead for sure. The monster brother and sister are existences at the peak of the spirit-detecting realm. They can instantly kill late-stage spirit-detecting realm warriors. That brat can't fight back at all. There's no other way. Who told him to be so arrogant? He killed many disciples of the three divine bird palace before and now he's even talking nonsense. With the monster brother and sister's personality, they definitely won't let him go. Everyone shook their heads. They all felt that Lin Xian was dead for sure. Jiu Moyan looked at Lin Xian and sneered. With the monster brother's help, he was very relieved. Not to mention Lin Xian, even all the youths in the Lost Lands would not be able to defend against the monster brother and sister. Yi Linyun's expression was serious. He felt that the sword intent in Lin Xian's body seemed to have become stronger, which shocked him. Yu Qingqing frowned. Her thoughts were more meticulous than the other warriors. She found that Lin Xian's aura had surpassed the early stage of the spirit-detecting realm and had reached the mid-stage. After this matter was confirmed, her heart was in great turmoil and she was incomparably shocked. In just a few months, Lin Xian's cultivation had broken through again. It had to be known that after entering the spirit-detecting realm, every breakthrough was extremely difficult. Normal warriors would not be able to break through without dozens of years. Even for geniuses like them, without heavenly treasures or opportunities, it would be impossible for them to break through without 3 to 5 years. However, Lin Xian had broken through a small realm in just a few months. The speed was too shocking. Beside her, Zhao Ziki stared at Lin Xian with her beautiful eyes. Her hands were tightly clenched and she was very nervous. Lin Xian, nothing must happen to you. She prayed in her heart. Haha, brat, die. Chapter 543. Then it quickly fell and slashed at Lin Xian. Lightning danced wildly and a hurricane galloped. In an instant, the entire space was shrouded in violent energy. Towering trees were uprooted and turned into powder under the violent energy. The earth cracked as countless cracks were created by this aura. The surrounding mountains exploded with a loud bang, as if they couldn't withstand this power. If it was before, Lin Shen would not be able to resist at all. He could only use his body movement to dodge. Now that he had merged with the Dragon Sword Soul, his strength and attack power had greatly increased. He could completely deal with this kind of attack. Without pulling out the Wind Shadow Sword, Lin Shen grasped the void with one hand. The golden lightning in his body roared and instantly condensed into a golden long sword. Lin Shen grasped the void and condensed a golden divine sword. The long sword was made of golden lightning. The lightning jumped and emitted an aura that made people's hearts palpitate. With a wave of his arm, the golden lightning sword cut through the void and slashed forward. Air billows rolled on both sides and countless cracks appeared. The golden long sword instantly collided with the death scythe. When the two collided, the void kept exploding and fine black cracks appeared. It was a shocking sight. The golden lightning long sword was condensed by Lin Shen using the Dragon Sword Soul as the foundation. Its attack power could be said to be extremely powerful. In an instant, the huge death scythe in the sky was cut in half. What? This is impossible. The disciples of the Divine Bird Palace were terrified and could not believe it. Their senior brother was extremely powerful. Almost no one in the Lost Place could defeat him. Even a martial artist at the peak of the spirit-detecting realm would not dare to take the blow. However, Lin Shen only used one move to break the terrifying attack. How is this possible? The surrounding martial artists panicked. They were all horrified. The demon siblings' pupils shrank and their hearts beat wildly. How could this be? When did this little thief become so powerful? The demon brother's face was gloomy. Is the strange phenomenon of the White Bone Mountain related to this little thief? Otherwise, how could he become so powerful in just a few months? The demon sister was also puzzled. No, we must catch him. Don't hold back anymore. The demon brother said in a deep voice. Then, he held the giant Grim Reaper scythe in his hand, and half of his body released boundless purple lightning. It was like a purple sea and vast energy spread out in all directions. On the monster sister's side, a clear stream of air revolved, and the power of wind filled her body. Rumble. The huge purple lightning above the heavenly palace bared its fangs and brandished its claws like dragons. Wherever the lightning passed, the air was filled with a burnt smell. Looking at the huge lightning bolt, everyone was terrified. They all watched nervously. The aura of this lightning was too terrifying. Very few spirit-detecting realm martial artists would be able to withstand it. Whoosh! The demon siblings' figures flickered and disappeared in an instant. Where is he? The surrounding warriors quickly probed, but they couldn't sense anything at all. It was as if the Fey siblings had truly vanished. Oh my god, it really disappeared. No, this is the concept of wind. Moreover, it has reached a very high level and is already capable of merging into the wind to eliminate all traces. It can be said to come and go without a trace. Come and go without a trace? How are we supposed to fight when we can't even sense the opponent's presence? Everyone was shocked. Just think about it, an opponent with powerful attack power who could appear anywhere at any time was absolutely terrifying. Lin Shen's expression was cold. Suddenly, his body flickered and he quickly moved out horizontally. A dazzling lightning bolt suddenly appeared where he had just been standing, exploding the space there. Countless cracks appeared and a pungent burnt smell spread out from there. The demon siblings' figures flashed and then quickly disappeared. Since their attack had failed, they hit again. Another lightning bolt flashed across the void, attacking Lin Shen. At the same time, countless wind blades flew out from all directions, shining with cold light. Lin Shen used the illusory demon steps. Like a phantom, he disappeared from where he was and reappeared in another place. Everyone held their breaths and cold sweat kept dripping down. This kind of attack was too strange and exciting. If it were them, they would have been killed instantly. Even Jiao Moyan and the others' eyelids were twitching as they watched nervously. Suddenly, a dazzling light beam shot out from the void, slashing toward Lin Shen's back. At the same time, the air around Lin Shen quickly moved, and blue chains formed and quickly tied him up. What? He's tied up. Ah, this kid is dead. How can he dodge this time? The disciples of the Divine Bird Palace laughed wildly. Some shook their heads, some were happy, but everyone knew that Lin Shen was dead this time. Haha, little thief, die. The huge death scythe turned into a ray of light and slashed down quickly. The momentum seemed to be able to split mountains and rivers, cutting through everything. However, Lin Xian was not afraid at all. In fact, the corner of his mouth even curled up into a sneer. Countless sharp sword rays surged out of his body, instantly shattering the green chains. Then he twisted his body and quickly dodged the huge scythe. He quickly pulled out the wind shadow sword. On the blade, the sword chi spun quickly, intertwining to form a bright moon. The blade slashed down, and the bright moon formed by the sword chi spun quickly, bombarding the demon siblings. The air seemed to be cut open, making a cracking sound. Then, the bright moon of sword chi hit the arm holding the scythe and suddenly deformed it. The demon siblings screamed and flew backward. The purple death scythe floated in the air, and the arm was already deformed, apparently broken. Countless tiny sword chi shuttled back and forth on it, constantly destroying it. It was impossible for the demon siblings to repair it in a short time. Not only that, the sword chi was so fierce that it tortured the two of them until they screamed. Both of their heads had hideous expressions. "Ah, you despicable thief, I'll definitely slaughter you." The two of them were angry, and blood-red lines appeared on their bodies like a huge water ball, wrapping them up. The power of the bloodline. Senior brother was forced to use the power of the bloodline. Jianghu was shocked. He originally expected that his senior brother would be able to kill Lin Xian in one move. However, he did not expect Lin Xian to become so powerful in such a short time. Now, even his senior brother was forced to use the power of the bloodline. But in the next moment, his face turned hideous. He was full of confidence in his senior brother, because his senior brother's bloodline was far stronger than his. The demon siblings had once used the power of the bloodline to fight against an ultimate practitioner of the spirit realm, and killing a practitioner of the same level was a piece of cake. Although Lin Xian was strong, he was definitely not a match for the demon siblings after using the power of the bloodline. The demon siblings were wrapped in blood-red currents, and their bodies underwent great changes. Ice-cold scales appeared on his body and covered his entire body. His two arms continued to grow thicker and larger, forming two beast claws. Feathers covered their backs, forming a pair of huge wings. Their heads also became hideous and twisted like the heads of demon beasts. After using the power of the bloodline, the demon siblings did not look like humans at all, but half-demon beasts. Chapter 544. The two forces intertwined, making the monster siblings extremely powerful. "Kid, you should be proud to die because of bloodline power." A cold voice came out. This voice was rougher than before, with a strong murderous aura, shattering the void. "This is your bloodline power?" Lin Xian sneered, "Turning yourself into something neither human nor ghost? Your divine bird palace is really disgusting. You're courting death." The monster siblings were furious. The huge wind thorn rotated, and the terrifying airflow sank the ground. They turned into a stream of light and instantly arrived in front of Lin Xian. The huge beast claw attacked, grabbing at Lin Xian. Wherever it passed, the void was torn apart like a piece of cloth. At the same time, the two heads spewed out a purple lightning, and the other side was a small hurricane. Lin Xian ignored the huge beast claw, but he frowned at the lightning hurricane. Although his words were sharp, it didn't mean that he didn't take the monster siblings seriously. On the contrary, he didn't underestimate them. However, the two lightning hurricanes made him feel a little scared. This force was enough to threaten him. His body swayed, leaving hundreds of shadows in the void, like a string of bubbles filling the whole place. Wherever the lightning and hurricane passed, one shadow after another was destroyed. However, none of them were Lin Xian's real body. At this moment, Lin Xian jumped high, holding the wind shadow sword with one hand and slashed down. The sword light was dazzling, accompanied by a terrifying sword intent. The sword light was like a divine light crashing down. Thunder and lightning intertwined, accompanied by a strong wind. The power of wind and thunder merged perfectly, forming a sword chi of wind and thunder, stirring up the surroundings. In the face of bloodline power, Lin Xian chose to fight head-on. He wanted to test his attack power after merging with the great dragon sword soul, to see how powerful it was. "You're just an ant without bloodline power, you're courting death." The monster siblings were disdainful. Their bodies swayed and they rushed up again. A huge lightning and hurricane rushed out quickly, bombarding the front. Boom boom boom. The air exploded, thunder intertwined, and the whole void was boiling. The two individuals' attacks collided, erupting with dazzling light. Terrifying power erupted as they rushed over. The demon siblings seemed to tremble as they were sent flying. Their attacks were all shattered and their bodies were covered with sword wounds. If not for the fact that they had activated their bloodline power, which greatly increased their defense, The sword chi could very well have sliced and pierced through them. What? The monster siblings were actually defeated. Everyone was stupefied, not daring to believe this. Especially the disciples of the Divine Bird Palace, they all screamed in horror. Their bodies trembled and their eyes were full of fear. They were very clear about the power of their own bloodline. Their senior brother was one of the best in the bloodline. In the past, once he used the power of his bloodline, he would quickly kill his enemies. Even if his enemies had a higher cultivation than him, they would still run away. However, this time, the bloodline power that they were so proud of had lost its effect. In front of Lin Xian, the attacks that were infused with the power of the bloodline seemed like child's play. How is this possible? He clearly doesn't have the power of the bloodline. How could he break my attacks? The monster siblings were very puzzled, and their eyes revealed endless madness. What was the so-called power of the bloodline? It was a vast power inherited from their ancestors, and it could definitely suppress ordinary warriors. In the past, when they used the power of the bloodline, they could definitely make those ordinary warriors' bodies stiff and unable to tremble. That was the suppression from the bloodline of the soul. However, all of this was ineffective against Lin Xian. Does Lin Xian also have a bloodline? Everyone guessed. Impossible. The power of the bloodline is extremely special. When it is used, we can all feel it. Lin Xian doesn't have that kind of aura. Someone shook his head. If this is your bloodline power, then you can go to hell. Lin Xian was like a killing god stepping on the air. After the battle just now, he had a certain understanding of the power of the great dragon sword soul. The bloodline of the monster siblings could not play any role in front of the great dragon sword soul. The great dragon sword soul was separated from the body of a true dragon, and it was the world's offensive saint technique. Lin Xian had fused with the great dragon sword soul, so he was not afraid of any bloodline power. In this way, his own shortcomings were completely fixed. He would even be the nemesis of those warriors who had the power of the bloodline. Brat, you're courting death. No one dared to underestimate the power of the bloodline. Those who did were already dead. The monster brother's voice was cold. He urged the power of the bloodline in his body with all his strength, forming blood marks all over his body. However, at this moment, a black shadow flashed, and Lin Xian had already appeared beside him. So fast. How is this possible? The monster siblings' faces changed drastically, and they quickly tried to dodge. However, a sword light was faster than them. The sword light flashed like a meteor across the void. Although it was very short, the light was extremely dazzling. Puff puff. Blood spurted out and two heads flew into the sky. The heads were filled with unwillingness and fear, frozen forever. What, the monster siblings were killed? How is this possible? Everyone was stunned. The monster siblings were top warriors and they were very powerful. Almost no one could compare to them. However, such people had been slaughtered, and the one who killed them was only a youth at the middle stage of the spirit-detecting realm. To be honest, it was too shocking. These people would never forget this scene for the rest of their lives. The body fell to the ground, blood flowing out, and the two heads fell in the distance. Lin Xian withdrew his sword. He had used the great dragon sword soul in that attack, and it was not something the monster siblings could resist. Then he looked around and stared at the people of the Divine Bird Palace. In an instant, all the disciples of the Divine Bird Palace trembled. That gaze was like a sword that pierced into their hearts. Geodemonic Flame's body also trembled slightly, and his heart was filled with horror. His powerful senior brother had also died. If this was spread back, the sect would definitely be shaken. Moreover, Lin Xian's gaze had made him feel fear. A few months ago this would have been a joke, but now it had happened. Let's go, he screamed. This person was not someone they could contend with. If Lin Xian went crazy and killed the disciples of the Divine Bird Palace, they would not have any power to fight back. If that was the case, the Divine Bird Palace would definitely be injured. In an instant, the sound of the air being torn rang out. The disciples of the Divine Bird Palace were so scared that their faces turned pale. They could no longer care about anything else and fled. In the sky, countless rays of light flashed and the airflow surged. Those were the disciples of the Divine Bird Palace who had fled. Everyone was stunned and their minds went blank. They did not think that the Divine Bird Palace, which had dominated this region, would be like a stray dog fleeing. And the one who had caused this was only a youth at the middle stage of the spirit-detecting realm. If this were to spread, the entire Jianghu domain would be shaken. In addition to the disciples of the Divine Bird Palace, the cultivators of the other forces were also trembling. Chapter 545. However, their senior sister Yu Qingqing had not left yet, so they could not escape. Facing those fleeing disciples of Divine Bird Palace, Lin Xian sneered. These people were nothing to worry about and were not worthy of him taking action. At this time Yu Qingqing suddenly spoke. Master Lin, I have heard about your matter from Ziki. I think we had some misunderstandings before. Why don't we resolve it now? Everyone was shocked again. The 6-star Divine Bird Palace had escaped, and now another 6-star sect, Moon-Embracing Pavilion, had admitted defeat and wanted to make peace with Lin Xian. This was something that would have been impossible in the past. One must know that 6-star sects were overlords in the Sky Martial region. Their disciples were extremely arrogant and did not put anyone in their eyes. If someone dared to touch their people, these people would definitely attack crazily. At this moment, Moon-Embracing Pavilion actually took the initiative to ask for peace. Although this was a sealed space in the Lost Lands, it was enough to show how terrifying Lin Xian was. Okay. Lin Xian nodded. Firstly, he was not a homicidal maniac. Secondly, he did not need to offend a 6-star sect over a small matter. After all, he would go to the Sky Martial region in the future. It was better to have one less enemy than one more friend. Seeing Lin Xian nodding, the disciples of Moon-Embracing Pavilion were all relieved. In this case we will meet again if fate wills it. Yu Qingqing's beautiful face revealed a smile, and then she left with everyone. Zhao Ziqi's beautiful eyes looked at Lin Xian. She was very reluctant, but in the end she gritted her teeth and left with Yu Qingqing. After the disciples of Moon-Embracing Pavilion left, the other warriors also quickly left. Even the disciples of 6-star sects did not dare to go against Lin Xian, let alone them. In the following days Lin Xian did not do anything else, but focused on consolidating the Great Dragon Sword Soul. With his current cultivation, he could only exert a trace of the Great Dragon Sword Soul's power. Even so, the power was already very terrifying. In the future, as his cultivation increased, the power of the Great Dragon Sword Soul would also increase. Just as Lin Xian was concentrating on cultivating, an ancient tribe in the Lost Lands was in an uproar. 8 experts from their clan went to suppress the White Bone Mountain, but they were thrown back. What was even more shocking was that the ferocious beast from underground had come out and even destroyed the lost shrine. Every single one of these events was earth-shattering. Normally, it would have shocked the natives of the Lost Lands, but now all of them were happening at the same time. Not only them, but those old antiques who had been sleeping were also awakened. Among them, 2 withered old men came out from the ancestral land. These 2 people were very short and small. Their figures were stooped and their bodies were emaciated. Only a layer of wrinkled skin stuck to their bodies. It was shaped like a dried orange peel, unusually rough. However, the eyes of these 2 old men were shining like stars. The aura that they inadvertently emitted was enough to make one's soul tremble. Ancestor. Everyone in the Lost Land said respectfully. Even those 2 old men at the Exalt realm revealed respectful expressions and didn't act presumptuously at all. At their level, age and whatnot were no longer of any use. Unless the opponent's cultivation was profound, only then could they be intimidated. Therefore, these 2 withered old men's cultivation was definitely above the Exalt realm. Perhaps even those 6-star sects didn't know that there were such terrifying existences in the Lost Lands. The 2 old men nodded slowly and asked in a deep voice, "What's the matter? Why did you wake us up? Could it be that the clan has reached a moment of life and death?" The 2 old men were dissatisfied. For people like them, they were already very old and didn't have much time left. If they didn't break through soon, they would turn into a pile of yellow soil. Although their cultivation was powerful, they still couldn't escape the fate of death. Usually, in order to conserve energy, they chose to stay in seclusion. They would only make a move when the clan was at a moment of life and death. Now that they were awakened by their clansmen, they naturally thought that the clan was under threat. "Ancestor, the clan is fine," the Exalt Realm Elder said. "Umph." The 2 old men were furious and their expressions immediately darkened. "Have you forgotten the clan rules?" His voice carried a terrifying power, causing everyone's blood to boil. "We don't dare." The warriors hurriedly explained. "Ancestor, it's like this." Then the elder told them what had happened on White Bone Mountain. Then, the 2 skinny old men trembled with excitement, and their eyes shot out terrifying rays of light that were dozens of feet long. The Great Dragon Sword Soul. I didn't expect the Great Dragon Sword Soul to be born. The 2 old men were excited. It turned out that the ancient words were true. The 2 of them shouted excitedly, and their voices shook the surroundings. "Let's go, bring me to have a look." The 2 old men's voices were urgent. "Ancestor, I'll lead the way." A young man in a beast robe walked out with an excited face. "Ah, old man, I didn't expect it to be your descendant," one of the white-haired old men said. The other gray-haired old man laughed dryly. "His aptitude is not bad, let me do it." The young man in the beast robe, Hun Li, was excited and quickly walked over. Then the two old men waved their sleeves and turned into two shocking rays of light, instantly disappearing. Lin Xian was cultivating near White Bone Mountain when he suddenly opened his eyes. With a trace of shock in his eyes, he looked up at the sky. Beside him, the sleeping dark red divine dragon also straightened its body and looked over suspiciously. "Not good, this aura is so powerful." The dark red divine dragon's expression changed. "Kit, hurry up and leave. I don't want to be captured and refined into medicine." Lin Xian stood up and asked anxiously, "What's his cultivation?" Someone who could make the dark red divine dragon nervous must have an extraordinary background. Damn, he's at least a half-step king. "Hurry up and leave. I don't want to be captured and refined into medicine." Without his dragon essence he could not stop these people at all. Hearing this, Lin Xian's expression changed. A half-step king was the same cultivation as the Black Dragon sect's leader. He could not even defeat one, let alone two. "Let's go." Lin Xian did not hesitate. He grabbed the dark red divine dragon and flew toward the lost temple. That was the only safe place. Swish. He turned into a ray of sword light and instantly entered the lost temple. In the next moment, the sky shook like boiling water, surging endlessly. Two shocking rays of light descended, forming a terrifying momentum that blew away everything in the surroundings. The ground could not withstand it and cracked open terrifying gullies. The originally lively primitive forest also quieted down at this moment. There was not a trace of movement within 100 miles. The two old men slowly descended, followed by the beast-clothed youth, Hun Li. "That ferocious beast really ran away," said the white-haired old man. "I didn't expect it to be a dragon. I've never seen a dragon in my life." The gray-haired old man snorted lightly. "If we can drink a mouthful of dragon blood, we might be able to break through." "I don't know if we can break through, but it can at least increase our lifespan by a few decades." The two old men's eyes shone brightly. They were actually thinking about the dragon blood. Chapter 546. The two skinny old men's eyes lit up as they looked at the lost shrine. "The lost shrine has been destroyed. We should be able to enter," the white-haired old man said. "Hee, it's been a few hundred years. We can finally enter." The gray-haired old man laughed. Behind them, Hun Li was also excited. The lost shrine was a forbidden area. A supremacy had tried to enter but was killed easily. Since then, none of their clansmen dared to enter, including the two patriarchs. Now he could follow the patriarchs and enter the legendary forbidden area. Just thinking about it made him excited. "Let's go." The three of them turned into rays of light and rushed toward the lost shrine. In the lost shrine, Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon watched anxiously. When they saw the two old men running toward them, their faces darkened. "Damn it, they're coming for us." The dark red divine dragon cursed. "Damn it, do you think I'm easy to bully? What do you have in mind?" Lin Xian asked. "Run." The dark red divine dragon roared and turned into a ray of red light, rushing toward the depths of the shrine. Lin Xian was speechless. He thought the dark red divine dragon would have a brilliant plan. He did not expect such an answer. Rolling his eyes, Lin Xian turned into a ray of sword light and ran toward the depths of the shrine. Not long after they left, the two patriarchs landed. The two of them quickly scanned their surroundings before laughing out loud. "Ah, we're finally in. Since this place is called the Lost Shrine, there must be a god's treasure. If we can get it, we might be able to break through." "Breaking through is nothing. It's a god's treasure. Maybe we can leave this place." The two old men's eyes lit up like hungry wolves. Hearing these words, the beast-clothed young man Hun Li trembled with excitement. He knew he was going to be rich this time. Following the patriarchs was definitely the right choice. By then, he would definitely be able to break through to the supremacy realm with the treasure in the lost shrine. Then he would become the youngest supremacy in the clan. He might even be more powerful than those geniuses from the outside world. If they could leave the lost shrine and reach the real world as the patriarchs had said, then he would be able to rely on the treasures here to display his prowess and dominate the world. Thinking of this, he was overjoyed. He couldn't wait to start searching immediately. However, although he was excited, he suppressed the excitement in his heart and followed behind the two old men. Now that he was in the lost temple, he had to follow these two old men to get the most benefits. "Let's go." Since we've come here, we absolutely can't return empty-handed. The three of them wandered around the lost shrine, searching for the treasures in their hearts. Lin Xian used his movement technique and arrived at the depths of the temple. To be honest, the last time he had come to seize the great dragon sword soul, he had only relied on his intuition to search for it. He had run all the way and had not paid attention to the scene in the temple at all. Now that he examined it carefully, he was shocked. This place was filled with ancient relics and was filled with a desolate aura. Beside these roads were piles of broken weapons. Although those wells were short, they were still releasing a deep radiance. They were like sharp divine weapons, emitting an aura that made one's heart palpitate. Lin Xian sensed with his perception. He discovered that the quality of these fragments was superb. They definitely surpassed spirit step treasures. His heart skipped a beat, and he quickly walked toward a broken sword. With a suction force from his palm, he grabbed the broken sword. With his soul power, he could tell that the grade of this treasured sword was higher than the Wind Shadow sword. Although it was broken, its power should be extraordinary. The broken sword on the ground felt Lin Xian's suction force, then trembled slightly and turned into a pile of powder. An astonishing aura flew out from the powder and slashed toward Lin Xian. The light was like a ray of sword chi, extremely sharp. At that moment, Lin Xian's scalp went numb and he gasped. Without any hesitation, he used the illusory demon steps and dodged quickly. At the same time, he pulled out the Wind Shadow sword and stabbed forward. On the sword edge, a golden airflow fanned and formed a large green bird that pounced forward. The green bird spread its wings and flew. A pair of sharp claws quickly grabbed at the light. The green bird contained sword essence and wind essence, and then it was used by the great dragon sword soul. It was extremely sharp and instantly collided with the light. The two collided and produced a low sound. Then they both turned into energy fragments and scattered in the void. Lin Xian let out a sigh of relief. The attack just now had surpassed the strength of a martial artist at the peak of the spirit-detecting realm. If he didn't control the great dragon sword soul, it would have been very difficult to block this attack. In the end, he didn't dare to act rashly. Although the things here looked tempting, they were already broken and contained a great threat. The slightest carelessness would have cost him his life. Lin Xian wasn't the only one who encountered such a situation. In a corner behind him, Elder Gray and Elder Bai also encountered the same situation. The beast rogue youth, Hun Li, saw a long saber shining with divine light and emitting an astonishing aura. He was overjoyed and hurried over. With his eyesight, he could naturally see that this long saber had surpassed the spirit rank. It was very likely that it was the legendary Earth rank treasure. This kind of thing only existed in legends. He didn't expect to see it here today. Of course he wouldn't let it go. He stretched out his hand, and a large hand formed by spirit power grabbed forward. In the blink of an eye, the large hand covered the long saber. However, in the next moment, the long saber suddenly cracked and turned into countless fragments. The fragments formed a saber light in the air and slashed forward. In the blink of an eye, the saber light formed by the fragments split the large hand of spirit power. Then, it slashed toward the beast rogue youth in an even sharper manner. The void was torn apart and trembled violently. The beast rogue youth's expression changed drastically. He felt that his body was out of control and his soul was trembling deeply. This attack had completely exceeded the realm that he could accept at the moment. No! He screamed crazily. His eyes were red. He wanted to dodge, but his body wouldn't listen to him. His heart was filled with regret. She was only 20 years old, but her strength had already reached the peak of the harmonious spirit realm. She could be said to be a peerless genius. Not only that, there was a great possibility that he could break through the venerable realm and become a powerful expert. But now he was going to die here. He couldn't accept this. Humph! Just when he thought that he was going to die, a cold snort came from the side. The sound wave vibrated and formed a fist. It blasted toward the void and shattered the saber light. Thank you, old master. The beast rogue youth was lying on the ground, gasping for breath. Be careful. These should be ancient weapons. Although they are broken, their power shouldn't be underestimated. The gray-haired old man said. He was the ancestor of this beast rogue youth. They had the most direct blood relationship. Therefore he took good care of the beast rogue youth. The three of them moved forward cautiously, exploring the mysterious lost palace bit by bit. Chapter 547. Lin Xian and the Dark Red Dragon felt a great threat at that moment. The reason was that not long ago the Dark Red Divine Dragon had opened a sealed door. In the end, Troops of divine soldiers wearing ancient battle armor and holding sharp bronze spears walked out from inside. They were like ancient warriors striding over. These ancient divine soldiers were covered in ancient battle armor, revealing only a pair of cold eyes. They were like lifeless machines and their movements were uniform. Moreover, they exuded a powerful aura that seemed to be able to shatter everything when gathered together. Lin Xian was shocked. He quickly used the Dragon Sword Soul to eliminate the pressure. Then his expression became extremely ugly. The aura of these ancient divine soldiers was very strong. It was far from what a spirit-detecting realm martial artist could resist. If he didn't have the Dragon Sword Soul, he would have been crushed by this aura. On the other side, the dark red dragon swallowed its saliva. As a member of the ancient divine dragon race, although it had lost its dragon essence and cultivation, its bloodline was still there. Naturally, it wouldn't be afraid of this aura. However, its expression wasn't very good either. It stared at the divine soldiers and screamed, "Mother Dragon, a group of Yin soldiers died." Yin soldiers? Lin Xian frowned. What are Yin soldiers? The dark red dragon retreated and quickly said, "These Yin soldiers were all powerful martial artists when they were alive. After they died, they were smelted with a special method to become machines that only know how to kill. Moreover, these people carried great resentment when they were alive, so they have an evil and cold aura on them now. They are called Yin soldiers." Lin Xian understood and then asked, "What are the strength of these Yin soldiers?" It's hard to say. According to their cultivation when they were alive, their combat power after they died is also different. However, the combat power of these Yin soldiers is average. They haven't reached the Venerable Realm. Hearing that, Lin Xian's mouth twitched. They haven't reached the Venerable Realm? Average combat power? Even he was afraid of the aura of these people. To his surprise, the dark red dragon continued, "Indeed, a single Yin soldier hasn't reached the Venerable Realm. However, if they join forces, they can definitely kill a Venerable Realm martial artist." Fuck. Lin Xian's forehead darkened. This was such an important piece of information and this guy was only saying it now. Didn't he know that he would die if he said it later? Kid, don't move. Using the Great Dragon Sword Soul should be able to intimidate this group of Yin soldiers. The dark red divine dragon rolled its eyes and said. Hearing this, Lin Xian used the Great Dragon Sword Soul, and a layer of hazy radiance appeared around his body, condensing into the shape of a true dragon. A supreme aura spread out as if it was going to tear the 9 heavens apart. Sure enough, blue flames danced in the eye sockets of the Yin soldiers. Wielding huge bronze spears, they circled around Lin Xian and continued forward. Lin Xian breathed a sigh of relief, and the dark red divine dragon also exclaimed in a low voice, "You scared this emperor to death." Lin Xian glared at him fiercely. "You still dare to say that? It's all your fault. Otherwise, we wouldn't have encountered such a situation." The dark red divine dragon knew that he was in the wrong, but he still muttered in a low voice, "Damn it, I didn't know there were Yin soldiers here." Then he said, "I'm afraid this lost shrine is not as beautiful as we thought. It's very dangerous here and if we're not careful we'll fall into an extremely dangerous situation. Let's wait here." Lin Xian also nodded. If there were Yin soldiers nearby they should be able to intimidate the unknown experts. Behind them, the gray and white elders and the youth in beastly clothes were pacing back and forth in front of a dilapidated stone house. This was a stone house and there were cracks on the stone door in front, as if it would split open at any time. Traces of golden flames were spitting out from the cracks. It kept flashing and every once in a while it would spit out some. The gray and white elders were originally hurrying on their way, and they happened to see this light so they were attracted to it. Seeing this light, the gray and white elders were overjoyed. They were sure that there must be a mysterious treasure behind this dilapidated stone wall. Thinking of this, the two of them were ecstatic. The white-haired old man punched out, and a huge fist image smashed into the wall like a mountain. The space shook and the air exploded. The terrifying energy fiercely smashed into the wall, causing it to shake. However, the wall that seemed to be dilapidated and covered in cracks merely shook, and then it stood there just like before. What? Seeing this, the gray and white elders frowned, and the youth in beastly clothes' eyelids twitched. He gulped with great difficulty, and then he looked at the dilapidated stone wall in shock. After all, his two ancestors had surpassed the Exalt realm, and they were even a step away from the King realm. Such figures could even instantly kill a spirit-detecting realm cultivator with a single glance. However, that violent punch didn't have the slightest bit of effect. This was simply too inconceivable. The white-haired old man's face was gloomy. His punch had actually failed to blast open a dilapidated wall, which made him feel rather embarrassed. In the end, he snorted coldly and punched out with his right fist again. This time, rays of divine light shot out from his fist. It was extremely dazzling, and terrifying energy surged out in all directions as if it could crush the heavens and the earth. The punch smashed onto the stone bridge, and it instantly caused a heaven-shaking sound to resound. At the side, the youth in beastly clothes felt his eardrums tremble and his aura roiled. He felt as if his body was about to split apart. His face was pale and he retreated in terror. After that, he used his spirit energy to seal his hearing, and only then did he heave a sigh of relief. How terrifying. Merely the aftershock of the energy had almost heavily injured him. However, what shocked him even more was that the dilapidated wall was actually still intact. It looked the same as before and there wasn't even a single crack. How is this possible? The youth in beastly clothes was shocked, and he almost bit off his tongue. It wasn't just him, the gray and white elders were shocked as well. Their strength could be said to be extremely formidable, but they were actually unable to break open a wall. It was too strange. As expected of the lost shrine, it's truly miraculous. I didn't expect a dilapidated wall to be so tough. The white-haired old man's expression was very unsightly, and he snorted coldly. The gray-haired old man also frowned. Looking at this wall, there should be a special restriction. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to withstand our strength. Let's look around. There should be a special formation mechanism on it. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for us to open it with just brute force. Time passed little by little, and in the blink of an eye, 2 days had passed. During this period, Lin Xian tried to walk out. However, as soon as he walked through a passage, he sensed 2 extremely powerful auras ahead of him. Subsequently, he was shocked and quietly retreated. There was no need to think about it. There were definitely 2 extremely powerful figures ahead, and they had blocked the path. He could only wait here patiently. During these 2 days, the gray and white elders kept searching and finally found a trace of a way to break open the wall. The 2 joined hands and, relying on their half-step king cultivation base and vision, they finally gradually broke open the dilapidated wall. Chapter 548. The dilapidated stone door cracked open, revealing the scene inside. However, to the disappointment of the 2 elders, it was not filled with countless treasures as they had imagined. It was very simple inside. There was only a white skeleton. The dazzling golden light came from the white skeleton. If one looked closely, they would find that the white skeleton was covered with a layer of faint golden lines. Seeing that there were no treasures, the young man in the beast coat was disappointed, while the 2 elders stared at the skeleton that was glowing with golden light. "Old man, do you feel anything?" the gray-haired elder asked. "Yes, although it's faint, it's indeed the pressure from the bloodline." The white-haired elder looked dignified. Then the 2 of them looked at the white skeleton carefully. Their tribe guarded the lost place. They had an extraordinary background and the bloodline power in their bodies was powerful. But now, a pile of white bones actually made their hearts palpitate. This situation was too strange. Unless the white bones were also very powerful bloodline warriors when they were alive, and their bloodline power was stronger than theirs. However, they were not happy because there was not much value in walking the bones. The 2 of them looked around and checked the situation in the stone cave. Soon they found a pool of blood in the corner. The blood was black and almost solidified. If one did not pay attention, they would not have noticed it. The 2 elders walked forward. However, just as they walked to the black blood, the pool of blood suddenly glowed red and filled the entire space. A low roar was heard. The blood rolled in the void and turned into a ferocious blood beast, roaring at the sky. A terrifying and majestic pressure rolled over like angry waves and blasted toward the 2 elders. "Oh no! Bastard, you're courting death." The 2 elders were furious. Then they attacked the void with a terrifying silent void. The 2 forces collided, causing the entire space to shake. The blood beast roared ferociously and its body glowed brightly. The surrounding walls reflected a scarlet light as if they were soaked in endless blood, emitting an endless murderous aura. The entire space was filled with the thick smell of blood. Not only that, when the light shone on the white bones there was a change. The scarlet light gathered in the eye sockets of the white bones, forming 2 red lights. Then, the white bones trembled slightly as if they were about to come back to life. Crack crack. White bones trembled, then stood up. It held a huge bone knife in its hand, and the aura on its body made people's hair stand on end. The beast-rogue young man's face turned pale. He kept retreating, trying to escape. Even Old Man Hui and Old Man Bai were frowning, their faces dark. The lost temple was indeed a forbidden place. Just by opening a wall, such a strange and terrifying thing had happened. The aura emitted by the blood fiend in the air and by Gu behind him was not any weaker than the two of them. This place was too strange, giving the two of them a bad feeling. The two elders did not want to take the risk. They looked at each other and quickly retreated. This action immediately angered the blood fiend in the air. It let out a furious roar and charged toward the two of them with a terrifying aura. The white bone transformed into a ray of white light and swiftly charged towards the two old men. The enormous bone blade in its hand was accompanied by an endless aura as it slashed down with a loud bang. Boom. Bang bang. The gray and white elders fought as they retreated, striking out terrifying palm and fist shadows. Suddenly, the sound of explosions came from the dark passage. Go. In the next moment, the gray and white elders grabbed the beast-robed young man and rushed into the sky. They transformed into a ray of light and ran deeper. The ferocious blood fiend and white bones quickly chased after them. Lin Xian paced back and forth near the group of Yin soldiers. He was cultivating while waiting. At this moment, he suddenly opened his eyes and stood up. This was because he sensed 4 extremely powerful forces rushing towards him at high speed. The dark red dragon beside him jumped up in shock and kept moving. Damn it, weren't there only 2 of them? Why are there 4 auras now? Kid, who did you offend? Li Xian's face darkened. He snorted coldly. What does it have to do with me? Maybe they're here to suppress you. Hearing this, the dark red dragon stopped talking. It shrunk its neck and said worriedly, "Why don't we go further in? I'm afraid these Yin soldiers might be able to stop the 4 of them." Go further in? Lin Xian hesitated. The things that appeared in this place were already too much for him to resist. If he did not have the great dragon sword soul, he would not be able to avoid these Yin soldiers. He did not know what dangers there would be if he went further in. If the great dragon sword soul did not work, he would not be able to escape at all. Therefore, he subconsciously did not want to go further. In the next moment, 4 rays of light appeared in front of the passage. The gray and white elders frowned and exclaimed in a low voice. They did not expect someone to arrive earlier than them. The beast-robed young man exclaimed in surprise, "It's you! Ancestors, he's the person I was talking about." Whoosh! The gray and white elders landed in the passage. They were blocked by a group of Yin soldiers and could not move forward at all. The two of them looked at the Yin soldiers in front of them cautiously, then stared at Lin Xian. According to the beast-robed young man, Lin Xian was the last person to come into contact with the great dragon sword soul and the peerless dragon. In other words, he knew the whereabouts of the peerless beast and the great dragon sword soul. "Boy, let me ask you, where are the great dragon sword soul and the peerless dragon?" The white-haired old man shouted coldly. Hearing this, the dark red dragon shrunk its neck and laid on Lin Xian's body, watching him nervously. Now that he had lost his dragon essence and cultivation, if he was recognized, he would not be able to escape. At that time, he might be captured and used for alchemy. "Boy, you can't leave me in the lurch," the dark red dragon said in a low voice. Lin Xian's expression turned cold. The wine lord said that this dragon knew a lot and should be able to help him, so he did not want to hand it over for the time being. Moreover, the beast-robed young man wanted to kill him. Lin Xian did not have a good impression of such an enemy. Moreover, he was the one who obtained the great dragon sword soul. If the other party knew, he would not let it go. Thinking of this, Lin Xian asked in a low voice, "Do I know you?" Hearing this, the 2 old men were stunned and subconsciously said, "No, we don't." "Since you don't know me, why should I answer your question?" Lin Xian sneered. The 2 old men were stunned, then became angry. What kind of status did they have? An ant-like cultivator dared to speak to them in such a manner? He was simply courting death. The beast-robed young man snorted coldly, "Boy, you're courting death. Quickly kowtow and apologize and tell us the whereabouts of the great dragon sword soul and the peerless beast. If you do, I might leave you an intact corpse. Otherwise, just wait to have your tendons pulled out and your soul refined." Lin Xian sneered and did not respond. If he was really forced, he would run into the depths of the palace. He did not believe that these people would dare to follow him because the Yin soldiers in front of him were emitting killing intent, and that killing intent was directed at the 2 old men. Chapter 549. The white-haired old man stretched out his palm, forming a huge hand that covered the sky as he grabbed at Lin Xian. At this moment, the surrounding Yin soldiers all raised the divine spears in their hands and pointed them at the sky. Rays of light rushed into the sky and instantly pierced through the huge hand that covered the sky. Although those spears were rusty, the divine light they emitted was incomparably terrifying. Even the void couldn't withstand it. In an instant, it pierced through the white-haired old man's terrifying light palm. The white-haired old man's expression changed, and he suddenly retracted his right hand. The gray-haired old man and the beast-robed young man were even more shocked. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes, but he was ecstatic. The other party was a half-step king, and his strength was incomparably powerful. However, these Yin soldiers were too strange. The attack they formed could actually resist a half-step king. At this moment, another shocking roar came from behind, and then two terrifying auras quickly rushed over. Hearing this roar, Lin Xian frowned, and the expressions of the two elders changed drastically. Although they were half-step kings, they were usually arrogant. However, this lost shrine was too strange. Although the Yin soldiers in front of them were only at the spirit-detecting realm, they were actually able to contend against them together. Not only that, the blood fiends and white skeletons behind them were even more terrifying. They were almost on par with them. If these Yin soldiers joined forces, they might be suppressed. One had to know that at their level they didn't have many years left to live. Their cultivation was used to extend their lifespan, so they couldn't afford to consume it. Therefore, the first thought of the two elders was not to fight, but to retreat. However, there were terrifying blood fiends and ferocious white skeletons behind them, so they couldn't leave. They could only break through from the Yin soldiers. Terrifying auras soared from the two of them, and they rushed forward like two sharp blades. Among them, the gray-haired old man opened the way and threw out countless fist shadows. Each of them was like a meteor, carrying a huge momentum. The white-haired old man grabbed at Lin Xian again. The two of them were as fast as lightning. In an instant, the terrifying fist shadows condensed into meteorites that smashed towards the Yin soldiers. The white-haired old man attacked even more strangely. A hazy palm of light instantly appeared above Lin Xian's head. In an instant, Lin Xian felt the surrounding air shatter, and an irresistible force appeared above him. This was the aura of a half-step king, and it was simply irresistible. Even a venerable would not be able to withstand it. Lin Xian spat out a large mouthful of blood from the impact. He pushed the great dragon sword soul with all his strength, transforming it into a sword light that pierced out diagonally. The great dragon sword soul was an offensive saint technique, and Lin Xian's speed was fast, so he escaped from the range of the light palm in an instant. In the next moment, countless Yin soldiers were enraged. Their bodies emitted a monstrous aura that connected together to form a black divine spear that pierced through the void. Behind him, the ferocious blood beast and the white bone devil general were also moving quickly. A blood-colored waterfall hung in the void, and a sea of blood flowed down from above, drowning the entire sky. On the other side, the white bone demon general also raised his huge white bone blade and quickly slashed out. Every move was extremely stunning, causing the void to explode. He actually dodged it. The white-haired old man was astonished. As a half-step king, his aura was enough to kill a spirit-detecting realm martial artist. But he didn't expect the other party to survive. This kid is too strange. The white-haired man was shocked. Then he said to the beast-robed young man, "Go capture that kid." The beast-robed young man was currently being pincered by the Yin soldiers, blood beasts and white bone devil general. He was already scared out of his wits. Now that he heard that the old ancestor wanted him to leave the battlefield and deal with a spirit-detecting realm martial artist, he was extremely happy. Without any hesitation, the beast-robed young man turned into a streak of light. Under the protection of the white-haired old man, he dodged the attacks of the Yin soldiers and quickly rushed toward Lin Xian. "Haha kid, obediently surrender." The beast-robed young man laughed loudly. Last time, if it weren't for the fact that he had to suppress the ferocious beasts, he would have already dealt with the other party. However, it wasn't too late now. The beast-robed young man sneered in his heart. With his skills, he could definitely subdue the other party in one move. At that time, he would use 100 methods to make the other party suffer a fate worse than death. Only then would he be able to vent the resentment in his heart. Thinking of this, he stretched out his finger. On his fingertip, a thick finger light spun rapidly, forming a dazzling light that quickly flew out. Lin Xian had just dodged the white-haired old man's attack and hadn't even calmed down when he saw the sharp finger light flying toward him. Immediately, his face sank and killing intent rose in his heart. The other party was so arrogant. Did they really think he was easy to bully? Looking at the finger light, Lin Xian's heart was calm. He stomped his feet and quickly rushed to the side. Then he stabbed out with the wind shadow sword. The concepts of wind and thunder merged, forming a sword of wind and thunder that quickly slashed down. This sword of wind and thunder was very different from ordinary sword chi. On the tip of the sword, lightning formed a sawtooth that was incomparably sharp. On the outside, there were countless gusts of wind opening the path, increasing the speed and attack power to the extreme. Everywhere it passed, the air was split into two. In an instant, the sword of wind and thunder collided with the finger light and exploded, drowning the entire void. The sword chi that exploded formed an arc that enveloped the surroundings. It wrapped around the violent energy and not a single bit of energy leaked out. In other words, Lin Xian's surroundings weren't affected by any of the energy. He had thought of all these in the instant that he attacked. With the great dragon sword spirit, his attacks had many variations. After the first slash, the second slash came down. This slash had merged with the great success sword essence. It was like a slanted moon that quickly slashed down. This sword light was very pure and very sharp. As the sword light swept past, the surrounding space seemed to be cut open, instantly creating cracks. The terrifying sword light tore open the energy cluster in the center and then quickly rushed toward the beast-robed young man. These actions happened extremely quickly. Almost at the same time as the beast-robed young man attacked, Lin Xian's two slashes had already landed. How is this possible? The beast-robed young man was shocked. It was unbelievable that his opponent could block his attack. One had to know that a few months ago Lin Xian couldn't fight back at all when facing his attack. He couldn't even dodge it completely. Now, not only did his opponent dodge his attack, but he even shattered his finger light. Not only that, but his opponent also had the ability to continue attacking. The terrifying sword light even made his hair stand on end. Shocking, too shocking. The beast-robed young man was almost stunned. It had to be known that after entering the spirit-detecting realm, it was very difficult to increase one's strength. Even he couldn't have an obvious breakthrough in 3 months. At most, his cultivation would have improved a little. His opponent was just a mid-stage spirit-detecting realm brat, but his strength had changed so much in 3 months. If this spread out, it would definitely shock a lot of people. This brat must have some secret on him. Perhaps it was related to the great dragon sword soul. The beast-robed young man's face was gloomy. He couldn't think of any treasures that could make a person undergo such a drastic change in 3 months. After thinking about it, perhaps only the legendary dragon would be able to do so. Chapter 550. Now that the two patriarchs were under the control of a group of Yin soldiers and blood fiends, he had to do it himself. If he was lucky, he might be able to secretly learn some secrets from Lin Xian. In the future, his cultivation might advance by leaps and bounds, and he might even reach the level of the patriarchs. Thinking of this, a hint of madness appeared in his eyes. This was definitely the best opportunity. This was the best opportunity for him to capture Lin Xian. Thinking of this, the young man in the beast-robed roared. His spiritual energy burned like a huge flame, and the surrounding void crackled. 5-finger radiances shot out and streaked across the air, forming a cage that enveloped Lin Xian. Lin Xian snorted coldly. His body moved erratically and countless shadows appeared in the void. At the same time, he stabbed out with the wind shadow sword. Every time, a fine sword chi would pierce through the void and collide with the radiant finger radiances. At the same time, he clenched his left hand and formed a pitch-black sword that floated in the air. Sword of Nirvana. The pitch-black long sword emitted a deathly aura. It was like a sword from hell, and it made one's heart tremble. This sword was originally comprehended from the bloodline of the king. Now that it was displayed through the great dragon sword soul, its power was several times stronger than before. Not only that, but the desolate aura on the long sword had also become more condensed. Lin Xian waved his arm, and the pitch-black sword of Nirvana quickly slashed down toward the young man in the beast-robed clothes. Wherever the sword passed, a deathly aura was emitted. The entire space was filled with a chill as if it was about to freeze. In an instant, the young man in the beast-robed clothes looked abnormally ugly. He felt that his body's functions were rapidly disappearing, as if his life essence was about to be completely drained. What kind of sword technique is this? It's so strange. It can deprive me of my life essence. He was horrified and quickly retreated. Lin Xian held the wind shadow sword in his right hand and shattered the 5-finger radiances. At the same time, he held the sword of Nirvana in his left hand and quickly slashed at the young man in the beast-robed clothes. In an instant, the young man in the beast-robed clothes lost his previous arrogance. He jumped continuously and dodged quickly. He could feel that if he was hit by the pitch-black sword, he would lose more than half of his life essence. In this dangerous lost shrine, being seriously injured was equivalent to death. The beast-robed youth clenched his teeth. He was unwilling to give up. He couldn't understand how Lin Xian's strength had suddenly become so fierce. Not even in his dreams could he have imagined this situation. He was at the peak of the spirit-detecting realm and was very powerful, but he didn't expect to be chased by a mid-stage spirit-detecting realm cultivator. Fortunately, there were no other martial artists here. Otherwise he would have the heart to die. Old Gray and Old Man Bai were in a fierce battle with a group of Yin soldiers, blood fiends and white-bone devil generals. When they saw the young man's condition, they were so angry that their beards curled up. At that moment they thought their eyes were playing tricks on them. A brat at the middle stage of the spirit-detecting realm was chasing after a martial artist at the peak of the spirit-detecting realm. This was too fucking ridiculous. Spirit Lee, what are you doing? Hurry up and use your full strength to take him down. The gray-robed old man shouted angrily. The young man's body trembled when he heard this. He knew that he couldn't hold back any longer. Brat, I didn't expect your strength to rise to such a level. You really surprised me. But let's stop here. I'll let you know what a real powerhouse is. You should be proud that you can die because of the power of your bloodline. After saying that, the young man stopped dodging. He stood in the void, his black hair fluttering behind him. His robe was flapping loudly. His aura was rising continuously. Streaks of blood-red lines filled his body. Behind him, the shadow of a fierce tiger condensed and roared in all directions. At the same time, black and white lines appeared on his cheeks and arms. Not only that, but his bones and limbs also became thicker. He was filled with a fierce aura. Anyone who has seen the power of my bloodline won't be able to survive. You won't be an exception. Spirit Lee's voice was cold. After using the power of his bloodline, he became abnormally fierce and violent. The power of your bloodline? Lin Xian stopped and sneered. He had the great dragon sword soul, so he wasn't afraid of the power of his bloodline at all. Ignorant ant, it seems like you still don't understand the power of my bloodline. Seeing Lin Xian sneer, the young man Hun Li was annoyed. Then he was filled with murderous intent and his hands made a cross in the air. The air trembled and spiritual energy condensed. The shadow of a white tiger appeared and let out an earth-shattering roar. It pounced on Lin Xian. This power was too strong. It had already surpassed the limit of the spirit-detecting realm. The young man sneered. This attack was enough to kill an ordinary martial artist at the limit of the spirit-detecting realm. Lin Xian wouldn't be able to withstand it. The tiger roared and shook the air. In an instant it was in front of Lin Xian. Lin Xian's expression was cold. He held the Nirvana sword and stabbed it forward quickly. The pitch-black Nirvana sword exuded the power of death. It was like a sword of death as it streaked across the air. In an instant it collided with the shadow of the tiger. When the two collided, there was no dazzling light or earth-shattering explosion. When the pitch-black Nirvana sword came into contact with the shadow of the white tiger, it was as if ice and fire had fused. The huge white tiger phantom dimmed, as if its energy had been drained from its body, and it was dispirited. The Nirvana sword was still emitting a pitch-black cold light. The aura it emitted caused the shadow of the white tiger to quickly dissipate. Not only that, but the young man in the beastly robe behind also trembled. His eyes were filled with shock. In an instant he felt an unusually cold aura enveloping him. It was as if it was sucking the energy from his body. In an instant he felt a lot of his life essence and spiritual energy being drained. This method was too strange. He was so scared that his face turned pale. He quickly cut off the connection with the shadow of the white tiger. Then the cold aura of death gradually disappeared. What kind of sword is this? It's so terrifying. The young man in the beastly robe was terrified. He realized that he had underestimated Lin Xian. This is the power of your bloodline? Lin Xian sneered. In my eyes it's worse than trash. Didn't you want to kill me? I want to see how you'll kill me. Lin Xian coldly snorted. His eyes were filled with killing intent. He had no enmity with the other party. They didn't even know each other. However, the other party had wanted to kill him more than once due to his greed. This made him angry. He couldn't forgive the other party. Lin Xian was like a god of death. He walked over with the Nirvana sword in hand. You're courting death. The young man in the beastly robe was furious. As the peerless genius of the clan, he had been the center of attention since he was young. No one had ever dared to look down on him like this. Now, a martial artist at the middle stage of the spirit-detecting realm dared to treat him like this. Chapter 551. Lin Xian was expressionless as he waved the Nirvana sword in his hand. With a cold and deadly force, The white tiger shadows in the air lost their energy quickly. The beast rogue youth seemed to have gone mad as he activated his bloodline power and waved his fists wildly. The white tiger shadows lit up with a faint red glow and an even more ferocious aura filled the air. The white tiger shadows that were originally dim were instantly replenished. They roared into the sky like the king of beasts, and their spiritual energy was extremely violent. They roared ferociously and pounced on Lin Xian. Although the Nirvana sword was powerful, it was still unable to completely destroy the white tiger shadows that were stacked with bloodline power. In an instant, Lin Xian was surrounded by countless white tiger shadows. Countless white tiger phantoms that were enhanced by the power of the bloodline pounced on Lin Xian from all directions. Their aura shook the heavens and the earth as they surrounded Lin Xian in an instant. Although the Nirvana sword in Lin Xian's hand was powerful, his opponent's bloodline power was too concentrated and he could not eliminate it immediately. Die, kid. Seeing that his opponent was surrounded by fist shadows, the beast rogue youth, Hun Li, laughed loudly. Lin Xian's expression was cold like the god of death. Countless sword auras surrounded the wind shadow sword and formed a blood-red blade that wrapped around it like a blood-red longsword. A shocking murderous aura emanated from it and swept across the heavens and the earth. Instantly, visible sword waves formed around it and the murderous aura swept across the heavens and the earth. It was like a layer of blood-red ice crystals that made the air cold and wanted to freeze people. The cold aura caused the surrounding temperature to drop. Streaks of murderous aura formed invisible sword scars that slashed in all directions. Hun Li's expression changed and he quickly retreated. The murderous aura was so shocking that it made his soul tremble. In the next moment, his expression turned ugly. Lin Xian had exceeded his expectations once again. The blood-red longsword swept in all directions and destroyed the white tiger shadows that covered the heavens and the earth. It was like the winter wind that blew painfully on people's bodies. Sword of slaughter. This move was also comprehended from the blood of a king. It was different from the sword of Nirvana, as it was a sword of killing. It was cold and merciless and it did not hold back. At this moment, Lin Xian was holding the black sword of Nirvana in his left hand and the blood-red sword of slaughter in his right. He was like a demon from hell, stunning the beast rogue youth. You. The beast rogue young man's expression was extremely ugly. His opponent's aura made him extremely displeased. It had to be said that the other party was only at the middle stage of the spirit-detecting realm. He could crush such a martial artist with a wave of his hand. However, the kid in front of him was abnormal in every way. If you have any last words, hurry up and leave them. Lin Xian's voice was cold, causing the surrounding air to crack. Arrogant. You're courting death. The beast rogue youth was furious. No one had ever dared to speak to him like this. He roared, and the figure of the white tiger behind him suddenly expanded. It was as if he had transformed into a huge tiger demon, tearing everything apart. Lin Xian's expression did not change as he moved his two swords. With boundless killing intent, blood-red sword chi surged out and clashed with the dark sword chi, forming a cross-shaped sword light that quickly shot forward. Wherever it passed, it formed a dazzling light and surged sword chi. The cross-shaped sword chi collided with the tiger demon's shadow. It only paused for a moment before cutting it open and quickly slashing towards the beast rogue youth. The beast rogue youth Hun Li was shocked. He hurriedly summoned the power of his bloodline and formed a tiger demon armor in front of him. It was as if it was made of black gold and silver, shining brightly. The red-black cross-shaped sword chi collided with the armor, creating the sound of metal clashing. Then the sound became louder and louder like a bell resounding in all directions. The black gold and silver armor cracked and turned into pieces, exposing the beast rogue youth. At this moment he finally felt fear in his heart, and it quickly spread throughout his body. The young man in front of him could already threaten his life. He quickly retreated, his body moving like lightning. However, Lin Xian was even faster, especially that sword of slaughter. It carried a monstrous killing intent that enveloped him. No! He screamed in horror. His originally handsome face was distorted beyond recognition. Ancestors, save me! The beast rogue youth quickly rushed towards the two elders. Poof! He had just escaped halfway when a blood-red sword pierced his back, piercing through his heart. He felt that his body had been hollowed out, and his consciousness was gradually blurring. He was so close to escaping to the ancestor. As for him, he was forever suspended in the air. There are some people that you can't mess with. Lin Xian's cold voice came from behind. Good. Hey. He struggled unwillingly. Boom. The sword of slaughter was activated and killed him. A young genius of a generation had fallen here in the end. If he hadn't been greedy and wanted to kill Lin Xian, he wouldn't have ended up like this. Thief, you're courting death. Not far away, the gray-haired elder was furious. The beast-rogue youth was his direct descendant, and he was extremely talented and had a lot of room for growth. But now he had been killed by a spirit-detecting realm brat, and it had been done in front of him. This was a slap to his face. With his identity as a half-step king, how could he tolerate this? With a cold snort, an invisible force surged out of the gray-haired elder's body, crushing the area and enveloping Lin Xian. In an instant, Lin Xian felt his body stiffen as if it was about to split open. Not good, this is a martial soul attack. Kid, hurry up and use the great dragon sword soul to resist. The dark red dragon shouted from behind. After reaching the venerable realm, one would condense a martial soul. For example, a swordsman would condense a sword soul. This kind of power was very mysterious and powerful, far surpassing that of a spirit-detecting realm martial artist. This was also the reason why venerables could become true powerhouses. Not only could they control the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, but their soul power would also increase greatly. Moreover, the combination of the two would form a martial soul. The invisible energy wave formed a 2-meter-long black and white demonic tiger that slammed down. This demonic tiger was different from the one formed by the beast-rogue youth. The latter was purely condensed from spiritual energy and was very stiff. However, the one formed by the gray-haired elder was very spiritual, as if it was real. Moreover, its power was dozens of times stronger. This kind of attack could instantly kill a group of spirit-detecting realm martial artists. However, he encountered Lin Xian. Lin Xian had the great dragon sword soul, and no other martial soul could compare to it. Although the demonic tiger martial soul was powerful, it couldn't withstand a single blow from the great dragon sword soul. Roar! A furious roar came from Lin Xian's body. The sound waves gathered and instantly intimidated the demonic tiger martial soul. What? The gray-haired elder was shocked. At that moment his mind went blank. He was a half-step king who had lived for nearly 700 years. He was definitely an extremely terrifying existence. For example, not to mention a spirit-detecting realm martial artist, even a venerable wouldn't be able to resist the attack just now. However, a mid-stage spirit-detecting realm kid actually blocked it. Moreover, his martial soul was repelled. This was too crazy. This kid must have a great treasure on him. The gray-haired elder quickly recovered from his shock. Chapter 552. In the next moment, his face became abnormally gloomy. The white-haired old man was also shocked. Then, he frowned as if he had thought of something. That roar just now, could it be the great dragon sword spirit? As soon as this thought appeared in their minds, their hearts began to beat wildly. Then the two old men looked at Lin Xian, their eyes shining with a shocking light. Although it was only their guess and they had not seen the real great dragon sword spirit, there was probably nothing else in this world besides the great dragon sword spirit that could push back a half-step king martial spirit with a single roar. Otherwise, a mere spirit-detecting realm mid-stage martial artist would not be able to resist a half-step king martial spirit. Therefore, no matter what, they had to capture Lin Xian. However, just as they were in a daze, the malevolent blood fiend and white bone devil general behind them suddenly erupted with terrifying attacks. Immediately, the two old men were flustered and hastily dealt with the attacks. The two were unable to break through for the time being, but their gazes towards Lin Xian were abnormally cold. Lin Xian frowned. He naturally knew what these two old men were planning, but he would not let them do as they wished. Lil Red, are there any Maureen soldiers nearby? Let's release them, Lin Xian said. Fuck, who is Lil Red? This emperor is a mighty divine dragon. The dark red dragon jumped up. Please call me Lord Divine Dragon in the future. Lil Red, we're talking business. Lin Xian said in a low voice. Hearing this, the dark red dragon rolled its eyes. In the end, it could only helplessly say, there are definitely more, but they're deeper in. Let's go and release them. Lin Xian led the dark red dragon and quickly rushed deeper into the palace. Now that he was being watched by the two old men, he could not leave at all. Only by killing these two old men would he have a chance to escape. Otherwise, it would be difficult for him to escape. Right now, the only ones who could kill these two old fellows were probably these powerful Yin soldiers. He had the great dragon sword soul, so he wouldn't be attacked by the Yin soldiers. That was why he made this decision. Otherwise, he would not dare to provoke these strange things even if he was beaten to death. Sure enough, not long after, Lin Xian saw another sealed door. Without another word, he ordered the dark red dragon to go forward and break open the sealed door. Not long after, the sealed door began to creak. Then, it opened and another group of Yin soldiers walked out. These Yin soldiers had powerful auras. They were holding huge bronze swords, and their bodies were filled with a murderous aura. As soon as they came out, they stared at Lin Xian. However, Lin Xian immediately opened his great dragon sword soul and stood there, not daring to move. When the Yin soldiers sensed the aura of the great dragon sword soul, they ignored Lin Xian and began to walk forward. Not long after, they arrived at the place where Elder Grey and Elder White lived. Dozens of bronze sabers were raised, and streaks of dazzling saber radiance slashed into the void. Countless saber lights intertwined, causing the sky to collapse. The two elders were shocked. Their scalps went numb as they roared madly. The Yin soldiers in front of them were already difficult for them to deal with. They did not expect so many more to come. This was undoubtedly asking for their lives. Kid, when we catch you later, we'll skin you alive and refine your soul. You'll never be reincarnated. The gray-robed elder's voice was like a ferocious ghost, filled with endless killing intent. Two old dogs. I'll kill you here today. Lin Xian's expression was cold as he stood in the distance and sneered. Wah, wah, wah. The two elders screamed madly. The aura on their bodies surged and broke through everything. As peerless powerhouses, they were usually respected by tens of thousands of people. When had they ever been insulted like this? The two of them could not wait to tear Lin Xian apart. However, the Yin soldiers in front of them gave them a headache. Kid, I'll catch you today even if I have to use some of my life essence. The gray-haired elder roared. Then an inexplicable aura rose from his body and condensed into a tiger demon behind him. Its shape was so realistic that it seemed real. Martial soul. This is a martial soul that only venerables have. As soon as the martial soul appeared, it suppressed the Yin soldiers and the ferocious blood fiends. The gray-haired elder also roared. A goshawk appeared behind him. It flapped its wings as if it was going to tear the 9 heavens apart. Their martial souls were unusually powerful. Their auras completely suppressed the surroundings. Previously, they did not use their martial souls in order to preserve their life essence and live a little longer. Now they were completely enraged. They planned to capture Lin Xian at all costs. Next, the two of them attacked ruthlessly. The white tiger martial soul roared ferociously. Its claws tore the void in front of it apart. Terrifying energy was incomparably vast. On the other hand, the goshawk martial soul flapped its wings and formed illusory images of goshawks. It then pounced on Lin Xian. It seemed that they wanted to capture Lin Xian alive. The goshawk martial soul was very sharp. It broke through half of the Yin soldier's defense and rushed toward Lin Xian. Lin Xian's face was gloomy. A trace of the great dragon sword soul rushed out of his body and forced the goshawk martial soul to retreat. Then he quickly retreated away from the battlefield. Kid, these two are going crazy. I'm afraid these Yin soldiers won't be able to resist them. The dark red dragon said worriedly. Half-step kings were extremely terrifying existences. Moreover, the two of them were even more terrifying when they joined forces. These old things are so difficult to deal with. Lin Xian's face was ugly. Now he could only survive by killing these two old things. Thinking of this, he moved again and ran toward the depths of the palace. This time he decided to release enough Yin soldiers to deal with these two old things. Lin Xian ran all the way. Finally he saw another sealed door. Then the dark red dragon quickly cracked it and the sealed door suddenly opened. An indescribable pressure gushed out and filled the entire space. Lin Xian's body trembled and he quickly retreated. This time he felt an indescribable pressure. It was as if an aura was about to tear him apart. Fortunately, he had the great dragon sword soul to protect him. Returning to the corner, Lin Xian frowned and looked at the sealed door. This time it was not as expected. A group of Yin soldiers walked out. There was only one figure in front. However, this figure's aura was stronger than countless Yin soldiers. That figure emitted a cold aura and slowly walked out. At this time Lin Xian saw the true face of that voice. It was a knight riding a war horse and holding a bronze spear. His figure was tall and straight and he was extraordinarily mighty. However, what was shocking was that this knight did not have a head. A knight without a head. This situation was too strange. However, the dark red dragon at the side screamed. This was not a Yin soldier, but a Yin general. A Yin general, from the name, should be more powerful than a Yin soldier. He is indeed more powerful than a Yin soldier because he was a king when he was alive, said the dark red dragon. What, a king? Lin Xian was shocked. A king was the true overlord of the world. He did not expect to be trained into a Yin soldier. He had seen the terror of a half-step king. This king was definitely more powerful than a half-step king. The headless knight rode on his war horse and slowly turned around to face Lin Xian. Chapter 553. This scene was too strange. A headless person was actually able to see his existence. That being said, with the existence of the Yin soldiers, the other strange occurrences could be explained. Lin Xian's body tensed up and he didn't dare to move. He activated the Great Dragon Sword Soul and formed a true dragon mark outside his body. After a while, the headless horseman turned around and disappeared in a ray of light. "Let's go!" Lin Xian bellowed and quickly followed after him with the dark red divine dragon. In front, after the two elders used their martial souls, they became more and more courageous. They gradually suppressed the Yin soldiers in front and the blood fiend and white bone demon general behind them. It wouldn't be long before they broke through. At that time they could go and capture Lin Xian. No matter how strange a martial artist at the middle stage of the spirit detecting realm was, it was impossible for him to escape from the two of them. However, before they could finish their daydream, a ray of light suddenly appeared from the depths of the palace. Behind it was a monstrous murderous aura. The air split open and endless air rolled on both sides, making rumbling sounds. An extremely cold figure stood in the void, facing Elder Grey and Elder White from a distance. In the next moment, the Yin soldiers below trembled. They quickly put away their weapons and stood to the side. Their actions were very uniform. They were all looking at the sky as if they were worshipping something. Behind them, the blood fiend and white bone demon general also fell silent. They retreated to the side and coldly watched. The two elders in the middle had dark faces and their hearts sank. They looked at the cold figure in the air and their faces became very ugly. Lin Xian stood at the end of the passage and looked at everything in front of him with a cold smile. When the two elders saw Lin Xian's expression, they were so angry that they stomped their feet and cursed in their hearts. This kid, who they thought of as an ant, had attracted powerful enemies for them time and time again. First it was a group of Yin soldiers, and now it was the strange headless horseman. What shocked them even more was that the headless horseman's aura was even stronger than theirs. It was the aura of a true king. A king was the true overlord of the world. Anyone who was called a king was a peerless expert who could shake the heavens and earth. Once such a figure appeared, it was absolutely capable of causing the heavens and the earth to lose its color. Although the two of them were powerful, they were still far from being comparable to true kings. For a moment, the two of them didn't have any thoughts of fighting. They looked at each other and made up their minds to immediately retreat and break out. At their level, they knew more and more how terrifying king tiers were. A casual strike from them could tear apart mountains and rivers, and change the color of the sky. They were no match for him, so even if they wanted to capture Lin Xian, they didn't dare to joke around with their lives. In an instant, the two of them turned into streaks of light and sped away. At this moment, the cold figure in the void moved. The headless horseman held a bronze spear in his hand and rode a mighty warhorse, charging forward quickly. The spear in his hand danced and tore the void apart. The next moment, the terrifying bronze spear appeared in front of the gray-haired old man and pierced down quickly. What? Impossible. The gray-haired old man suddenly turned around, his eyes filled with shock. He roared angrily and his aura surged wildly, shaking the void and causing countless cracks to appear. In the next moment, the white tiger martial soul appeared in front of him and roared ferociously, shaking the surroundings. The bronze spear was silent and didn't have any dazzling light. However, it was too powerful and instantly pierced through the white tiger martial soul. Then it stabbed forward in an even more violent manner. Seeing that his white tiger martial soul couldn't even resist for a moment, the gray-haired old man was scared out of his wits. He couldn't care about anything else and activated the power of his bloodline with all his might. Like a stray dog, he quickly fled. He had to escape. Even a powerful move like the white tiger martial soul had been broken in an instant. This meant that the other party's strength had completely surpassed his. The two of them weren't on the same level at all. However, although the gray-haired old man was fast, the bronze spear was even faster. The headless horseman seemed to have locked onto the void. The spear was like a dragon and instantly caught up with the gray-haired old man and pierced through him. Then, the headless horseman held the spear in one hand and raised it in mid-air. The gray-haired old man's face was ferocious and his eyes were filled with endless terror. He struggled with all his might, trying to get rid of the bronze spear. However, no matter how hard he struggled, there seemed to be an invisible force holding him in place. He couldn't escape no matter how hard he tried. Drip, drip. Countless drops of blood dripped from the tip of the spear. Every drop of blood caused the void to explode. This was the power of the bloodline power. However, such a terrifying bloodline power couldn't fight back against the Headless Horseman at all. This was the strength of a king. He could definitely suppress an area. The gray-haired old man was so scared that his whole body trembled. He didn't dare to stay any longer. He abandoned the gray-haired old man and ran outside. However, in the next moment, the green shadow in the void swayed and the spear struck out again. In an instant, the gray-haired old man let out a miserable scream. The void shattered and countless black holes flickered. The entire space was annihilated. Lin Xian stood at the end of the passage and tried his best to look over. Then he was shocked. This was because he saw the Headless Horseman standing in the void with the bronze spear in his hand raised high. On the spear, the gray-haired old man and the white old man were pierced and hung in the sky. Countless drops of blood splattered and dyed the sky red. This scene was too shocking. A shabby spear had nailed two half-step kings in the void. The gray-haired old man and the white old man were extremely powerful. A drop of their blood could cause the void to explode. However, such powerful warriors were no match for the Headless Horseman. They couldn't even block a single spear. Is this the strength of a king? Lin Xian clenched his fists. He was shocked. This was a true powerhouse. A casual attack had the power to tear the world apart. He yearned for this kind of power. Lin Xian knew that with the great dragon sword soul, he would be able to reach this level one day. However, he didn't want to wait too long. Therefore, he could only work hard to cultivate and strive to reach the king level as soon as possible. At that time, he could return to the Tianan region and save the Swordpool Mansion. At that time, he wouldn't be afraid of the Black Dragon sect's leader. He could even destroy the entire Black Dragon sect with a raise of his hand. Thinking of this, Lin Xian clenched his fists. He knew that there was still a long way to go. The Headless Horseman stared at the gray-haired old man and the white old man in the void. Then he shook his spear and threw the gray-haired old man to the ground. The blood beast in the distance roared and quickly rushed over. It turned into a cloud of blood mist and enveloped the gray-haired old man and the white old man. The gray-haired old man and the white old man were terrified and struggled with all their might. However, the spear just now had seriously injured them. Moreover, there was an even more inexplicable force that was destroying their vitality. Chapter 554. Not long after, the two of them let out miserable cries before turning into a pile of bones. A half-step king died in the Lost God Palace just like that. Even a half-step king couldn't escape. This lost shrine was too strange. Lin Xian didn't dare to stay any longer. He planned to leave this place quickly. Fortunately, he still had the great dragon sword soul, so the Headless Horseman and the group of ghost soldiers chose to ignore him as if they couldn't see him. Lin Xian turned into a beam of sword light and sped towards the exit. It had been a month since Lin Xian left the lost shrine. In this month, he had been consolidating his cultivation and comprehending the great dragon sword soul. However, in these few days the lost place had changed again. Traces of spatial cracks appeared in the sky. It was a ghastly sight and it was a shocking sight. Lin Xian looked at the sky and narrowed his eyes. He knew that the time in the lost place was up, and all the outsiders were about to be teleported out. The disciples of other sects were fine as they were all received by their sections. However, Lin Xian was different. He was forced to come here from the Tianan region. He didn't know if he would return to the ancient Azure Dragon City in the Tianan region or be teleported to the Sky Martial region. Thinking of this, he frowned. After the Black Dragon Hierarch failed to fight for the Great Dragon Sword Soul, there would definitely be a bloodbath in the Tianan region. If he went back at this time, it would definitely be the worst-case scenario. However, if the news spread to the Sky Martial region and he was blocked by the 3 6-star sects, the result would probably be even more terrifying than going to the Tianan region. Especially the Divine Bird Palace, they would definitely not let him go. The two sides had already reached a state of irreconcilable conflict, and there was no way to resolve it. More importantly, Lin Xian still had the Great Dragon Sword Soul. If the old monsters of the 3 sects found out, they would definitely go all out. Facing those old monsters who had lived for hundreds or thousands of years, Lin Xian had no confidence at all. Then he began to ask the Dark Red Dragon for a solution. Don't worry kid, your whereabouts are not in the 3 sects' control, so even if you are teleported out, you won't fall in front of them. The Dark Red Dragon was very calm. Hearing this, Lin Xian was relieved. Now that the Dark Red Dragon God was with him, it would not trick him. Otherwise, the other party would also be captured to be refined into pills. More and more warriors were being teleported out of the Lost Lands. Soon news of Lin Xian spread. The martial artists of the three major forces waiting outside were all shocked. In particular, the cultivators of the Divine Bird Palace were trembling with anger. More than half of the disciples of the Divine Bird Palace had fallen inside, and the leading monster brother and sister had fallen inside. That was a genius martial artist, and someone who had activated his bloodline. This was undoubtedly a huge loss to them. This was definitely a blatant slap in the face. Apart from the Divine Bird Palace, the other two forces did not suffer many casualties. It was obvious that the kid was specifically targeting the Divine Bird Palace. Next, the cultivators of Divine Bird Palace grasped Lin Xian's appearance and aura. Then, everyone exuded a murderous aura. The one in the middle was a middle-aged man. He was extraordinarily mighty and had a powerful aura. Every move he made could cause the weather to change. Obviously, this was a venerable and one of the leaders of the Divine Bird Palace. This kid must be caught. The middle-aged man's voice was cold, like 1,000-year-old ice, drifting in all directions. He had already recognized Lin Xian. Not only did he kill the disciples of the Divine Bird Palace, but he also killed the successor of the Divine Bird Palace. They would not let such a person go. The other two forces were also shocked. After hearing about Lin Xian's deeds, they felt more and more that this young man was amazing. However, they were mostly gloating. Although they belonged to the same three camps, there was also a lot of competition between them. Now that the Divine Bird Palace had suffered heavy losses, it was undoubtedly great news for the other two forces. Where is that kid now? A purple-robed elder next to him asked. He was also a venerable. This time, the Divine Bird Palace sent a total of 3 venerables to receive him. In addition to the middle-aged man and the purple-robed elder, there was also an old woman with a walking stick. Her face was dry and wrinkled like an orange peel. These 3 people exuded a biting cold murderous aura. Reporting to the 3 elders, that kid is still in the Lost Lands. What do the 2 of you think? The middle-aged man asked. When he comes out later, we will suppress him. The 2 elders looked cold and did not allow for any explanation. In the Lost Lands, Lin Xian's body glowed. He felt a huge force trying to expel him. He knew that it was finally time for him to leave. The dark red dragon lay on Lin Xue's body, its eyes full of excitement. Beside it, the snow-white monkey rubbed its sleepy eyes. Soon Lin Xian turned into a ray of light and rushed toward the huge crack in the sky. He's out. The Divine Bird Palace's powerhouses who were waiting outside suddenly looked up at the sky and smiled coldly. The other 2 forces also watched. They all wanted to see the mysterious young man. Stay. The middle-aged man snorted and waved his hand toward the sky. Suddenly, a huge light palm appeared, covering the sky and the sun, and pressed forward mercilessly. Lin Xian quickly left the Lost Lands under the influence of an inexplicable force. However, in the next moment, he felt a surging force enveloping him as if it was going to tear him apart. Oh no! His face darkened. Without a doubt, it was the Divine Bird Palace's people. Next to him, the dark red dragon was also angry. Damn it, how dare you block my way? You really don't want to live. When I recover my dragon essence, I'll roast you all. However, although he was angry, his hands did not stop moving. Because he was now with Lin Xian, if he was caught and recognized, he would definitely be refined into medicine. Although his dragon essence and cultivation were gone, his knowledge and experience were still there. The dragon waved its claws and formed a strange pattern in the air. It was like a ferocious little dragon twisting quickly. Soon, a magical array was formed around them. Suddenly, the terrifying aura interference weakened a lot. Below, the middle-aged man from the Divine Bird Palace suddenly became gloomy. The other powerhouses were also shocked. The middle-aged man was a venerable. Logically speaking, it should be easy for him to catch a martial artist in the middle stage of the spirit-detecting realm. However, he did not expect his first attempt to fail. Interesting, now I'm getting more and more curious. What was the background of that little guy inside? On the deity sword villa's side, a middle-aged man in white stood. He carried a simple long sword on his back. When he opened and closed his eyes, the sword flashed. Beside him stood Yi Linyun and the other genius disciples of the deity sword villa. At this moment, they were all looking at the sky nervously. On the other side, a beautiful woman in palace attire also raised her head and looked over. Countless rays of light surrounded her body, making her look like a fairy. This beautiful woman in a palace dress was the powerhouse of the moon-embracing pavilion. Behind her stood Yu Qingqing and the others. Among them, Zhao Ziki was so nervous that she clenched her small hands and prayed in her heart. Chapter 555. Fortunately, Yu Qingqing had swallowed her pride. Otherwise, the moon-embracing pavilion would have lost more than half of its martial artists. Hearing this, Yu Qingqing's lips curled into a bitter smile. A portrait appeared in her mind. A young man stood proudly with a long sword in his hand. Genius martial artists gathered around him, but no one dared to fight with him. One man and one sword intimidated the surrounding genius disciples. At that moment, Yu Qingqing could only look up. There was an inexplicable fluctuation in her heart. Ever since she started practicing martial arts, she had been regarded as a genius and was surrounded by countless dazzling halos. Soon, she surpassed countless disciples and was worshipped by tens of thousands of people. Among the same level, there were few who could stand shoulder to shoulder with her. The geniuses of other forces could at most tie with her, but it was difficult for them to defeat her. Therefore, she had never worshipped anyone of the same age as her. However, the appearance of Lin Xian made her heart tremble. There was even a trace of worship in her heart. As soon as this thought came to her mind, Yu Qingqing's cheeks flushed red. She had a cold temperament and did not put those men in her eyes. But now she had an inexplicable feeling for Lin Xian. However, Lin Xian did not know this. At this moment he was once again in great danger. Because in addition to the sky-covering palm, another terrifying attack appeared from the left and right. This time, the three honorables of the Divine Bird Palace attacked together. In the middle was a terrifying palm of light. On both sides were two illusory images of divine birds. They were hundreds of feet tall. They spread their wings and imprisoned this part of the world. This time, the three joined forces and were determined to take down Lin Xian. The void was in chaos. The terrifying pressure made the surrounding martial artists tremble. This kind of power was too terrifying. Any trace of it could tear them apart. "Master, should we save him?" Yu Qingqing asked softly. The woman in the palace dress turned back. There was a hint of a smile in her eyes. Yu Qingqing blushed and hurriedly lowered her head. She did not dare to look directly at her. After that, the woman in the palace dress said in a deep voice, "Let's wait and see." On the other side, the middle-aged man from the deity sword villa narrowed his eyes. His eyes shone brightly. No one knew what he was thinking. In the void, the three forces intertwined, causing the world to explode. Huge cracks appeared one after another. Lin Xian received a strong attack and was about to be teleported out of the Lost Lands. If that really happened, he would be completely exposed in front of everyone. At that time he would have no chance of escaping. Thinking of this, Lin Xian unwillingly roared. He operated the great dragon sword soul with all his strength, and an explosive aura appeared on his body, condensing into the appearance of a true dragon, roaring towards the sky. The dark red divine dragon's expression was also uncertain. It gritted its teeth and said, "Brat, continue to use the great dragon sword soul, don't stop. I'm going to use a secret technique." Then the dark red divine dragon sword and merged with the true dragon shadow in the void. The true dragon's silhouette trembled and rapidly transformed, fusing with the dark red divine dragon to form a giant dragon that was several hundred zhang long. Lin Xian was shocked. He didn't expect the dark red divine dragon to have such a secret technique. However, a glimmer of hope rose in his heart, and he exerted even more effort to stimulate the great dragon sword soul. On his shoulder, the snow-white little monkey also showed a trace of anger. It floated in the void, and its big black gem-like eyes became incomparably deep. Finally, it formed two vortexes like black holes. A terrifying aura appeared, as if an immemorial fierce beast had been resurrected. The black vortex and the true dragon's silhouette resisted the surrounding energy attacks with all their strength. Outside, after the powerhouses of the Divine Bird Palace attacked, a sinister sneer appeared in their eyes. They seemed to have seen the situation after Lin Xian was shaken out of the void. However, in the next moment, the void suddenly exploded. The two divine bird silhouettes suddenly flew back, and a giant dragon that was several hundred zhang long appeared. It roared towards the sky, and with a sweep of its tail and claws, it immediately tore the divine bird's silhouette apart. What is this? Is it a divine dragon? Everyone was horrified. They all looked at the sky, and a touch of shock appeared in their eyes. The middle-aged swordsman from the deity sword villa and the woman in the palace dress from the moon pavilion also looked dignified. The three powerhouses of the Divine Bird Palace were even more horrified. A sense of fear rose in their hearts. A divine dragon's silhouette had appeared in this place. Was there really a divine dragon here? So what if it is a divine dragon? Our divine bird palace also has divine birds. The three of them snorted. Then the wings on the middle-aged man's back flapped, forming a huge silhouette. It was like two heavenly blades slashing into the void. The two old men next to him also joined forces to attack, using their respective martial souls. For a moment, the entire sky was flooded with violent energy. The several hundred Jianghu divine dragon was too terrifying. Every time it attacked, it brought with it monstrous energy, destroying the divine bird palace's attack array. Hurry up, I can't hold on any longer. Lin Xian gritted his teeth and said. The great dragon sword soul required too much energy. It was very difficult for him to maintain his current strength until now. If this went on, he was likely to faint. The dark red divine dragon nodded to show that it understood. Then it roared and spat out a huge dragon flame from its mouth. The monstrous flame burned, igniting the sky. The boundless sea of fire spread, and the terrifying heat swept in all directions. At this moment, two black vortexes appeared in the void. Then they formed two black light pillars that flew over. Wherever they passed, the void shattered. The two black light pillars were too terrifying. The aura made the venerables present tremble from their souls. The attacks of the three powerhouses of the divine bird palace were shattered, and the three of them were also suppressed by the black serpent light pillar. Just as they were in a daze, Lin Xian was taken away by the teleportation power of the lost land and disappeared into the horizon. Not long after, the monstrous dragon flame and the black light pillar also disappeared. At this moment, the three venerables of the divine bird palace breathed a sigh of relief. Then their faces became extremely ugly. They quickly attacked and destroyed the sky, but Lin Xian's figure was nowhere to be seen. Ah! The middle-aged man roared wildly. His black hair fluttered, and his body emitted a powerful aura that tore the earth apart. In front of so many people, the three venerables were unable to stop a martial artist in the middle stage of the spirit-detecting realm. Shame, it was too shameful. However, what shocked them was that the little thief had the shadow of a divine dragon and a mysterious powerhouse beside him. Especially the black light pillar, they all trembled. The deity sword villa and the moon-embracing pavilion did not laugh at the divine bird palace because they were also shocked and could not speak for a long time. Go back and report, mobilize all forces and must not let the little brat escape. The three divine bird palace powerhouses shouted angrily. Suddenly, a terrifying energy rose from the three of them and took away all the disciples of the divine bird palace. The deity sword villa and the moon-embracing pavilion also left. The appearance of such a mysterious youth in the sky martial region would cause a huge shock to the younger generation. Chapter 556. In the void, Lin Xian gritted his teeth and stayed awake. On his shoulder, the little white monkey's eyes regained clarity. It rubbed its big eyes and then went into the storage bag to sleep. The crimson dragon was also lying on Lin Xian's body with a listless look on its face. Lin Xian breathed a sigh of relief. He knew that he was out of danger for the time being. This time, the teleportation array in the Lost Land sent Lin Xian to an unfamiliar place. In the endless desert, thousands of miles of the Gobi Desert. From time to time, a hurricane would blow by, blowing up the yellow sand and covering the sky. Suddenly, there was a fluctuation in the void and then a hole opened like a pocket. Then a figure fell from the black hole. This figure was Lin Xian. He escaped from the three venerables of the divine bird palace and was teleported to this place. At this time he was a little weak, so he took a defensive posture as soon as he landed. However, when he found that there was no one around, he breathed a sigh of relief. However, when he saw the surrounding scene, he was stunned. Yellow sand filled the sky and strange rocks were everywhere. There were no trees and it was very desolate. On his body, the dark red dragon also jumped down, looked around and then howled. Damn it, where is this place? Birds don't shit, there's not even a shadow. He was very weak after using the secret technique. He originally wanted to find some spiritual fruits and demonic beast cores to replenish himself. However, he did not expect to be teleported to such a desolate place. Not to mention spiritual fruits, he could not even see Xiao Chao. Lin Xian was also stunned. He had seen mountains, rivers and bustling cities, but he had never seen such a desert. However, he was glad that there was no one around so he could recover his strength. After 3 days of recuperation, Lin Xian finally recovered his strength. However, he was still afraid. The aftereffects of overusing the great dragon sword soul were terrible. He was almost sucked dry. This also reminded him that unless it was absolutely necessary, He must not use the great dragon sword soul more than he could bear. Otherwise, his life essence would be drained dry, and at that time only death would await him. After recovering his strength, Lin Xian started to look around. He did not know where he was, so he wanted to find someone to ask. However, Lin Xian discovered that within a radius of 10,000 miles, there was only the Gobi Desert. There was not a single person to be found. The dark red divine dragon had a gloomy look on his face as he kept trying to persuade Lin Xian to leave this place as soon as possible. Lin Xian had the same idea, so they quickly set off. After summoning Xiao Jin, Lin Xian and the dark red dragon climbed onto Xiao Jin. Little Gold squawked twice, then jumped and ran forward. This place was extremely vast, with yellow sand as far as the eye could see. With a rough look, it seemed that every place was the same. If one was not careful, it was very possible to get lost here. In the desert there was also a small team moving forward cautiously. Wang Ling was wearing a large white robe that covered his entire body as he walked in the desert. Beside her, there were dozens of martial artist guards wearing white tights. "Miss, we are already close to the depths of the desert. If we go any further we will reach the center of the desert. It is very dangerous there, you must be careful." Beside Wang Ling, there was an old woman who reminded her in a low voice. "With Grandma Silverflower around, I am very relieved." Wang Ling smiled and then instructed the martial artists to guard around her. "All of you be careful. Once there is a situation, immediately take action. This time we must find the primordial Yang stone. Miss, this old woman will say something unpleasant." Although the primordial Yang stone is precious compared to life, it is nothing. Grandma Silverflower said, "This is just a rumor. It is not certain if it really exists. We don't need to take this risk." Hearing this, Wang Ling shook her head. She must obtain the primordial Yang stone. Not only did she need it, if she could sell it, it would definitely fetch a sky-high price. At that time, her status in the family would skyrocket. A few thousand meters away from Wang Ling's team, Lin Xian arrived on Xiao Jin. With his outstanding soul power, he already knew that there were people ahead. Therefore he recalled Chick in advance and walked together with the dark red dragon. At this moment, the dark red dragon was very excited. It did not know how it heard the conversation between Wang Ling and the others. When it found out that there was a primordial Yang stone here, it was so excited that it almost jumped up. "Kid, you must obtain this primordial Yang stone," the dark red dragon said excitedly. Primordial Yang stone contained pure primordial qi and life essence. This kind of thing was very rare and only existed in very special places. The dark red dragon did not expect that there would be primordial Yang stone in this desert. It had lost its dragon essence and its cultivation had dropped. If it had the primordial Yang stone, it would be able to replenish its dragon essence. At that time, not only would its cultivation recover, it might even be able to condense a trace of dragon essence. This matter was related to its cultivation and life. How could it not be excited? Lin Xian naturally also heard of the primordial Yang stone. This stone was also very useful to him. Lin Xian released his soul power and continued to observe the situation. Soon after, he frowned slightly. These guards were obviously under the command of a young man. That young man was behind Wang Ling. His whole body was covered, only revealing a pair of eyes. With his sharp soul power, Lin Xian felt that there was a deep evil hidden in that gaze. Seeing this gaze, Lin Xian knew that this young guard did not have any good intentions. It was very likely that he had designs on the white-robed girl. However, he seemed to have hidden it very well. The white-robed girl did not notice it. If Lin Xian had merged with the great dragon sword soul, his soul power would have increased greatly. Perhaps he would not have noticed the evil in that gaze. Lin Xian did not stop. Instead, he quickly rushed in that direction. Soon, Wang Ling's group felt the fluctuation of spiritual power behind them. Under the command of the young leader, the surrounding dozens of martial artists all turned around and formed a defensive formation, protecting Wang Ling in the center. Grandma Silverflower also had a grave expression as she looked behind her. Soon, a figure appeared in front of them. Grandma Silverflower was slightly stunned, because this figure was simply too young. It seemed that he was only 17 or 18 years old. However, such a delicate-looking youth had appeared alone in this desert. This made her even more vigilant. When the young guard saw Lin Xian's cultivation, he immediately revealed a disdainful sneer. A trace of coldness filled his eyes. Although the cultivation of a middle-stage spiritual detecting realm martial artist was not weak, it was like an ant in his eyes. He only needed one move to kill a middle-stage spiritual detecting realm martial artist. Therefore, when facing Lin Xian's arrival, he did not feel nervous at all. However, Grandma Silverflower was very cautious. She took a step forward and blocked in front of Wang Ling. She asked in a deep voice, "Who are you? What is your purpose here?" The Sunset Desert was very dangerous. Normally, martial artists would enter and exit in groups. No one dared to act alone like this youth. Chapter 557. Little girl, I heard you guys talking about the primordial Yang stone. Do you know where it is? The dark red dragon jumped down from Lin Xian's body and hovered on the ground as he asked. The moment the voice came out, everyone was startled. Their hearts trembled as they looked forward. They discovered that there was a small red snake beside the young man. The voice came from this small red snake. A talking demonic beast. Wang Ling was shocked. The young leader was also shocked. One had to know that even a rank 9 demonic beast might not be able to speak. The small snake in front of them clearly had a terrifying aura. It was impossible for it to be a powerful demonic beast. However, it could actually speak human language. This was simply too shocking. What kind of mutant is this? Everyone was shocked. The young leader's eyes were burning. However, Grandma Silverflower's doubts grew. This young man could actually eavesdrop on their conversation, and they didn't even know. In addition to shock, Wang Ling's eyes also had a trace of vigilance. She said in a delicate voice, "I don't know what the primordial Yang stone is." There was a trace of coldness in her words. It was obvious that she didn't want to have too much contact with Lin Xian. The Crimson Divine Dragon stomped his feet anxiously. He wanted to say something, but Lin Xian held him back. "This is my first time here. I'm very unfamiliar with this place. Can I join you?" He was indeed unfamiliar with this place. He didn't even know if this place was still in the Sky Martial region. Therefore, he urgently needed to find someone to ask. However, Wang Ling quickly shook her head. Wang Ling quickly shook her head with a trace of displeasure in her eyes. Grandma Silverflower, who was beside her, also said coldly, "We still have things to do. It's not convenient to bring a stranger with us." The young leader also shouted, "Brat, if you know what's good for you, scram. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless." This voice carried a surge of spiritual power. It rolled over and exploded the surrounding air. Countless yellow sand flew up, forming a huge whirlwind that swept in all directions. This young man was actually at the peak of the spirit-detecting realm. No wonder he could become the leader of these guards. His strength was indeed terrifying. The surrounding guards all drew their swords and sabers. A terrifying aura rose from their bodies. "You see, these people don't welcome you. So you should leave," Wang Ling said. Shaking his head, Lin Xian didn't say anything else. Instead, he turned and left. The young leader's strength was on par with Granny Silverflower. Furthermore, he had a group of guards under him. If he wanted to rebel, Grandma Silverflower and the King's Spirit would not be able to resist. If Wang Ling agreed to go with Lin Xian, they might be able to avoid a disaster along the way. However, all of this had nothing to do with Lin Xian. He turned around and quickly ran forward, disappearing into the desert in an instant. "Boy, why didn't you continue to ask about the whereabouts of the primordial Yang stones?" After leaving those people, the dark red divine dragon shouted in dissatisfaction. "They're on high alert. We can't get anything out of them." Lin Xian shook his head. "So what? With your strength, it shouldn't be difficult to deal with those people. Why don't you capture them and interrogate them? I don't believe that you won't be able to find out the whereabouts of the Yuan Yang stones." The dark red dragon snorted coldly. Lin Xian shook his head. He had killed many people. But those people deserved to die. Other than that, he had never done anything like robbing. Using force to force people he didn't know was something he couldn't do. "Sai boy, you're still too inexperienced. In the world of cultivation, this kind of thing is common. If you don't do it, maybe someone else will." The dark red divine dragon had an exasperated look on his face. "If my cultivation was still here, I wouldn't have wasted my breath. I would have directly searched their souls. This is good. We're just running around like headless flies. When will we be able to find the Yuan Yang stones?" The dark red divine dragon sighed and then jumped up. It stared at Lin Xian and asked in a deep voice, "Boy, are you deliberately not asking because you don't want me to get the Yuan Yang stones?" Lin Xian helplessly rubbed his ears. "I say, little red. Are you too bored? Why don't I find little white to play with you?" Hearing this, the dark red divine dragon drooped its head. In the past few days, it had quarreled with the little white monkey several times. But when the little white monkey's furry paw came down, it would immediately faint. It was the same every time. There was no accident. In the end, when it saw the little white monkey's paw, it had a shadow in its heart. Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief when the dark red divine dragon was no longer noisy. Then he released his soul spirit and searched around. Since the dark red divine dragon mentioned the Yuanyang stones and had the same attitude just now, Lin Xian was sure that there were Yuanyang stones nearby. Sunset afterglow. The entire desert was covered in a layer of orange light. The red sun emitted its last trace of heat before completely sinking into the ground. Suddenly the entire desert became dark. Not only that, countless gusts of wind blew in the surroundings, and the temperature dropped sharply. Lin Xian stopped and did not want to move forward. Normally, with his cultivation, traveling at night would not be a problem. But in this desert, especially after sunset, he felt that his soul spirit was suppressed. Right now, he could only sense the situation within 100 meters. He couldn't sense anything further than that. This was not good news for him. It had to be known that he was walking alone in this desert. It was inevitable that he would encounter something. If he could not predict it in advance, the result would be very dangerous. In the end, he decided to stay in place and wait for the next morning before moving forward again. A bright moon rose and the cold moonlight shone on the ground. The sand reflected a bit of silver light. In the latter half of the night, the temperature dropped and the air seemed to freeze. Even with Lin Xian's cultivation, he still felt the bone-piercing cold. What a strange desert. No wonder those people came in groups. Lin Xian was surprised. It had to be known that with his strength, ordinary cold could not threaten him at all. However, the cold air of the desert made him feel uncomfortable. The spiritual power in his body circulated, and a surging aura filled his body, dispersing the cold air around him. With the protection of his spiritual power, it was indeed much warmer. Next, Lin Xian began to cultivate and let the dark red divine dragon stand guard. The cold night passed and the sun rose. The temperature rose again. This desert was very strange. The temperature at night was very cold. It could probably freeze a spirit transformation realm warrior to death. However, the temperature during the day was extremely high. It was like a furnace. Especially under his feet, it was like flowing lava. It was unbearably hot. Lin Xian used the golden thunder body to form a solid defense as he walked in the yellow sand. Although the journey was boring, he had a new understanding of cultivation. In the past, he had always been in a state of cultivation and fighting. His entire body was in a tense state. It was rare for him to be able to calm down and comprehend like now. These days of walking in the yellow sand had deepened his understanding of martial arts. It could be said that his spirit had been sublimated. Chapter 558. When Wang Ling's group saw Lin Xian again, their faces darkened. In their opinion, Lin Xian must have secretly followed them here. This person was so sneaky that he was definitely not a good person. Grandma Silverflower snorted. Very simple, I'll kill him. The young leader's words were filled with killing intent. Forget it, let's go find the primordial yang stone first. Wang Ling shook his head. If he really dares to follow us again, it won't be too late to make a move then. Fine, let him live a little longer. Anyway, an ant like him can be dealt with in one strike. The young leader snorted. Feeling the other's killing intent, Lin Xian sneered in his heart. If the other party really made a move, he wouldn't be lenient. Although he wouldn't look for trouble, he wasn't afraid of it either. He even dared to kill people from a 6-star sect like the Divine Bird Palace, let alone these spirit-detecting realm martial artists. Seeing that those people didn't make a move, Lin Xian silently turned around and continued on his way. At night, the temperature dropped again. It was like 10,000-year-old ice floating in the void. There was a cold aura everywhere as if it could freeze people into popsicles. Lin Xian sat cross-legged, floating in the void. He circulated all the spirit energy in his body to resist the cold aura. He didn't sit directly on the sand because the yellow sand was too strange. It was like an ice hammer in the night, emitting a bone-chilling coldness. Therefore he chose to float in the void. Not long after, the yellow sand below began to surge, making whooshing sounds like waves. Lin Xian frowned and woke up from his cultivation. He cautiously looked down. Suddenly, the yellow sand below split open, and a black shadow shot out, shining with a cold light and pierced upwards. Lin Xian snorted coldly and dodged quickly, easily dodging the attack of the black light. Then he floated in the air and looked down. With his outstanding soul power, he quickly sensed the situation below. It was the tail of a demonic beast. The scales on it were triangular and emitted a cold light. At the tip of the tail there was a 1-meter-long poisonous needle. There was a purple aura on it. It was obviously poisonous. Lin Xian frowned. That poison needle didn't seem any worse than a high-grade spirit step artifact. At this moment, the dark red divine dragon was also awakened. He looked down and shouted excitedly, "Kill it! Kill it! The demon crystal is mine!" Below, countless clouds of yellow sand tumbled and then flowed in all directions. A purple poisonous scorpion crawled out from under the yellow sand. Its tail was raised high, and the purple poisonous needle was shining like an awl. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Without any hesitation, he quickly swung his sword. A fine sword light slashed down from above at high speed. This sword light was very light and gentle, as if it did not exist. However, when it neared the scorpion, it suddenly exploded with a sharp aura. The sword light flashed and instantly cut down on the poisonous scorpion. The scorpion's body trembled and split open from the middle. The split was neat and its organs and blood spilled out onto the ground. The dark red divine dragon roared and turned into a red ray of light, quickly flying down. It took out a fist-sized demon crystal from the corpse and quickly swallowed it. After killing the poisonous scorpion, Lin Xian did not relax. Instead, he frowned even more because he felt that there was an undercurrent flowing under the yellow sand. A few thousand meters away, Wang Ling's team was also nervously looking around. The entire surface of the yellow sand was moving up and down like waves. A terrifying demonic aura came from the depths of the desert and rushed in all directions. Then there was a rustling sound. Countless poisonous scorpions crawled out from the ground. These poisonous scorpions were purple and as big as mountains. The small ones were the size of dogs. They stood on the yellow sand and bathed in the cold moonlight. They covered the mountains and plains and surrounded Wang Ling's team. The scene was too terrifying. Wang Ling's team only had about 20 people, but there were thousands of poisonous scorpions around them. If they were surrounded, there was no chance of survival. Therefore, in an instant, Grandma Silverflower rushed into the sky with Wang Ling. The young leader also shouted and a powerful aura exploded from his body as he quickly dodged. The other guards protected the two sides and retreated quickly. All of this happened in an instant. The entire team rushed into the sky quickly. From this point, it could be seen that this team was more experienced. On the yellow sand, the poisonous scorpions bared their fangs and brandished their claws as they rushed into the sky. They emitted a terrifying demonic aura that intertwined to form a huge poisonous scorpion shadow. The poisonous scorpion shadow was 100 feet long and filled the entire sky. With a wave of its huge pincers, it tore the void apart. Its long tail was like a divine whip that swept in all directions. In an instant, the poisonous scorpion shadow's tail swept towards Wang Ling's team in the sky. With a loud bang, the guards in the back row were sent flying, vomiting blood as they were sent flying. The young leader and Grandma Silverflower released a powerful aura that formed a golden defense. It was a shield of strong spiritual power that was half a meter thick. It blocked the huge tail that swept over. However, the tail had a strong poisonous aura. When it came into contact with the defense, there was a sizzling sound as if ice and snow were melting in a raging fire. The young leader and Grandma Silverflower were shocked. They quickly waved their palms and a vast amount of spiritual power surged forward. A resplendent saber radiance slashed across and a huge palm shadow surged out. Everywhere it passed, sparks flew and large pieces of scales and white bones fell. The two of them joined forces and resisted the attack of the huge tail. However, the two of them did not show any joy because the scorpion shadow appeared again. Its huge pincers were like a hammer of death with a mighty aura. Whoa! Everywhere it passed, there was a whistling sound in the air. It was as if hell was crying. It was very miserable. When the sound drifted out, the martial artists and guards felt their scalps go numb and their hearts tremble. Everyone attacked frantically and tried their best to escape. Lin Xian was also surrounded by countless poisonous scorpions. However, he appeared to be much calmer and did not panic. He raised his arm and the Nirvana sword surged out. The pitch-black long sword slashed downwards. A cold and deathly aura descended like the arrival of the Grim Reaper and slashed into the group of scorpions. Suddenly, a large number of poisonous scorpions were shattered into pieces. Those that were not hit were also affected by the Nirvana Chi and lost a large amount of life force. The dark red divine dragon waved its dragon claws at the side and collected all the cracked demon crystals below. Then it stuffed them all into its mouth. These things were definitely the best nourishment for it. Lin Xian almost instantly killed hundreds of poisonous scorpions. However, even more scorpions swarmed over. The desert shook violently. Groups of poisonous scorpions struggled out of the yellow sand. Densely packed, it was a ghastly sight, causing one to feel fear just by looking at it. This time, there were even more poisonous scorpions and they were even more powerful. The surroundings were filled with purple demonic aura. It formed a poisonous fog that corroded the surroundings. Lin Xian frowned and retreated quickly. The poisonous aura was very strong. It could poison a spirit-detecting martial artist. He did not want to fight with these scorpions, so he used his movement technique to leave. Chapter 559. Lin Xian soared into the sky and quickly left the place. However, dozens of purple figures suddenly shot up from below. Like purple lightning bolts, they quickly rushed into the sky and chased after Lin Xian. "Fuck, flying scorpions!" The dark red divine dragon yelled from the side. Lin Xian turned around. His face was gloomy because there were dozens of 2-meter-long scorpions behind him. They had a pair of wings on their backs and were quickly flying over. Their wings were light purple with purple air currents circulating on them. It was very dreamy. The purple wings flapped and instantly rushed towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian was surprised. It was his first time seeing winged scorpions. Moreover, he could clearly sense that these scorpions were abnormally powerful, far surpassing the ones below. It seemed that these scorpions were the elites of the mutated Traceless. In an instant, dozens of scorpions flew over and surrounded Lin Xian. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws as they pounced. Lin Xian's body erupted with a bright light like a small sun. These were all formed by sword qi and were extremely sharp. These sword qi surged out and slashed in all directions, immediately blasting away the incoming scorpions. Lin Xian did not stay and turned to leave. However, the scorpions behind him surged forward again with purple air currents circulating on their bodies. Obviously, the attack just now did not kill them. It only pushed them back. Lin Xian's expression was cold. 2 rays of sword qi shot out from his eyes. He snorted coldly and raised his right hand. A blood-red longsword condensed. Sword of Slaughter. As soon as the blood-red longsword appeared, an endless murderous aura soared. A strong bloodthirsty killing intent swept through the world. This murderous aura was so strong that even the winged scorpions around him trembled slightly. They wanted to move, but Lin Xian did not give them the chance. He waved his arm and the sword of slaughter flew out. It was like a blood-red sun, shining in all directions. Countless blood-red sword qi slashed horizontally, slashing the venomous scorpions around him, making clanging sounds. Clouds of bloody mist exploded, and those flying scorpions exploded, turning into fragments that fell into the yellow sand, and were soon swallowed up by the yellow sand. After dealing with these poison scorpions, Lin Xian turned around and left. During this period he encountered 2 flying scorpions that chased after him, but they were both taken care of by his sword of slaughter. In the end, blood-red sword marks formed around Lin Xian and floated around him. They emitted a terrifying aura, making him look like an Azura from hell. It wasn't until the latter half of the night that the venomous scorpions stopped chasing after them. Lin Xian put away the sword of slaughter and used the long-life secret art. Only then did the blood-red sword ripples around his body disappear. The shocking killing intent on his body also disappeared. After leaving the poisonous scorpions, Lin Xian continued forward. He felt that this desert was too strange, there were many hidden dangers everywhere. If he was not careful then he might lose his life here, so he planned to find the primordial yang stones and immediately leave. However, ahead of him he encountered Wang Ling and the others. However, the other party was no longer as arrogant as before. Instead, they looked battered and exhausted. The number of guards had also decreased by half, and every one of them was wounded. Even the youth and Grandma Silverflower's clothes were shattered in a flash. On the other hand, Wang Ling was still in good condition, but his little face was pale without a trace of blood. It was obvious that these people had also encountered the poisonous scorpions and had just escaped. At this moment, those people also saw Lin Xian. They were angry at first, but then they were stunned. This was because Lin Xian's clothes were very clean and tidy, and there was not a trace of injury on his body. He did not look like he had gone through a great battle at all. How is this possible? Did he not encounter the poisonous scorpions? Grandma Silverflower was shocked. It's just luck. The youth leader coldly snorted, and a trace of gloominess appeared in his eyes. However, in his opinion, Lin Xian was completely lucky that he did not encounter the poisonous scorpions. Otherwise, A small martial artist at the middle stage of the spirit detecting realm would not have been able to escape from the poisonous scorpions. Lin Xian indifferently glanced at Wang Ling's team. Without any expression, he quickly walked past them. Meanwhile, the youth leader coldly snorted, and a surge of killing intent rose from his body. However, this action was stopped by Grandma Silverflower. Her reason was that they had just escaped, and it was not suitable for them to fight. The most important thing now was to quickly rest and recover their strength to deal with what was coming next. Count yourself lucky this time. The next time we meet, I will definitely cut you down with my blade. The youth leader's voice was cold. The night passed and the day arrived. This time, Lin Xian summoned the snow-white little monkey and asked it to use the treasure basin to find the location of the garden sunstone. The snow-white little monkey yawned and took out the shabby little bowl on its head. Then it spoke with conviction like a little charlatan, dancing and jumping with joy. The dark red divine dragon found it funny. Then it seemed to have thought of something and exclaimed, "Could this shabby plate be that treasure basin?" It was bewildered as it carefully stared at the snow-white little monkey, trying to figure it out. The snow-white little monkey jumped for a while, then picked up the little bowl and pointed in a direction. Finally, it jumped onto Lin Xian's shoulder and began to command. Lin Xian smiled and handed the snow-white little monkey a few spirit fruits. Then, his body swayed and he disappeared into a flash of lightning. After walking for half a day, Lin Xian suddenly saw a patch of green trees in front of him. An oasis. His eyes lit up and he increased his speed. The dark red divine dragon also let out a strange cry and flew over excitedly. In front of him, there was a small oasis with mottled green trees and a crystal-like lake. The dark red divine dragon dove into the lake and played to its heart's content. Damn it, the wind and sand these few days have been too strong. It has dirted my scales. I must wash them properly. The dark red divine dragon kept complaining. Lin Xian also smiled. He took out a few containers and started to store water. The snow-white little monkey was also playing by the lake. At the same time, it took out the shabby little bowl again and kept muttering. Then it cried out excitedly and ran to a green tree with the small bowl on its head. It started to dig a hole. Its little claws waved and soon, it was holding something that looked like ginseng. Its big eyes were squinted into the shape of a crescent moon. Supreme grade sand ginseng. It's at least 3,000 years old. Seeing this, the dark red divine dragon rushed over with a whoosh. Now he was sure that this shabby bowl was definitely the legendary treasure bowl. Otherwise, the snow-white little monkey would not be able to find such a supreme grade spirit herb. Even with his experienced eyes, he did not find it just now. This supreme grade sand ginseng must have been hidden very deeply. Hee little monkey, do you want me to exchange it for you? The dark red divine dragon stood on both legs like a wolf with a big tail. It smiled very wretchedly. It waved its claws and took out a few demon crystals, wanting to exchange it with the snow-white little monkey. However, the snow-white little monkey held the supreme grade sand ginseng with disdain in its eyes. It did not care about the demon crystals in the dark red dragon's hands. Chapter 560. If it was in the past, it would have killed the other party with a single slap. But now, it had lost its dragon source and its cultivation was greatly reduced. Moreover, the other party was too strange. It could often slap it unconscious, so it really could not do anything to the little white monkey. The little white monkey did not care about the dark red dragon's bribe. It put away the top-grade sand ginseng and began to write noisily. In the next moment, the dark red dragon's face darkened and became very ugly. It naturally understood what the little white monkey meant. A monkey the size of a palm wanted to take it in as a follower? How was that possible? Who was it? He was a member of the Eastern Divine Dragon clan. It was the only one in the world and the leader of all beasts. Although it had lost its dragon source, it would not recognize a little monkey as its boss. No way. This is not negotiable. The dark red dragon was so angry that it crushed the demon crystal in its hand, swallowed it and quickly left. Damn it, I'm so angry. The dark red dragon kept slapping the water to vent its anger. Lin Xian found it funny but he did not stop it. The dark red dragon was too hooligan. Perhaps only the little white monkey could control it. After resting for a while, Lin Xian and the others continued on their journey. This time, the little white monkey jumped onto Lin Xian's shoulder, grabbed his hair and pointed in a direction. You mean the primordial yang stone is nearby? Lin Xian asked. The little white monkey nodded and pointed in a direction. Not far from the oasis, there was a barren mountain. There were no plants on it, but there were all kinds of strange rocks piled up on it. It was very strange. The little white monkey had led them to this place. According to it, the primordial yang stone was here. Lin Xian closed his fingers, condensed a sword chi and quickly slashed forward. Boom. The rocks in front of them were split open and a cave appeared. A warm aura came from there. This aura was different from the hot air in the yellow sand. It was very gentle and would not cause harm to the human body. The dark red dragon felt the aura and jumped up in shock. This was the aura of the primordial yang stone. That's right, it was here. Then it quickly jumped up and rushed over. But not long after he screamed and flew back. Ouch, this emperor is in so much pain. There's actually a damned restriction. The dark red divine dragon howled in rage. It had charged too fiercely just now and had directly crashed into the restriction. Although its bones were as tough as steel, it still felt a heart-wrenching pain. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes, stroked his chin and said, "If you can open the restriction, I can give you some primordial yang stones." The dark red divine dragon's eyes lit up. Then he patted his chest and said, "It's just a restriction. How can it stump me?" You have to know that this emperor even went to a mortal palace back then. What does this bit of restriction count for? It began to shake, quickly breaking through the restrictions. Although the dark red divine dragon had the air of a ruffian and did things insolently, it had to be said that it was indeed very capable. It didn't take long for it to completely open the restriction here. Then the earth trembled as if there was an earthquake. Suddenly, a warm aura gushed out and filled the surroundings. Lin Xian stepped forward to take a look. At the same time his pupils shrank. He couldn't help but take 2 steps forward. A trace of shock appeared on his face. After the seal was opened, the pure yang qi below was too strong. He could feel it from far away. The dark red divine dragon excitedly shouted, "Boy, I'm rich this time. It's actually a primordial yang stone lode." Primordial yang stone lode. Lin Xian was shocked. One must know that primordial yang stones were already very rare. But he didn't expect that there would be a lode here. Although the scale was not very big, it was enough to shock the world. Moreover, what made him pleasantly surprised was that this primordial yang stone lode was discovered by him. It was an ownerless object, so he could use it alone. This was like picking up a huge treasure. However, the only thing that worried Lin Xian was that when he opened the restriction, there was a violent fluctuation that might alarm others. But then he felt relieved. After all, this was a desert and there weren't many people. But for safety's sake, he decided to quickly take action and search for some. On the other side, the dark red divine dragon has already jumped down. He looked at the ground full of primordial yang stones and saliva dripped down from the corner of his mouth. Lin Xian's figure flickered and arrived below in a flash. He discovered that there were 3 kinds of primordial yang stones. One of them was the size of a fingernail and had a somewhat mottled color. It was low-grade primordial yang stone. Another one was the size of a walnut and was mid-grade primordial yang stone. The best one was the size of a fist and was glossy and was emitting pure yuan aura. At this moment, the dark red divine dragon was crazily plundering primordial yang stones. The corner of Lin Xian's mouth twitched. This ruffian dragon really dared to take action. All the stones it took were high-grade primordial yang stones. It didn't even look at mid-grade primordial yang stones. Next, Lin Xian's figure flickered and also quickly took action. Ha ha. The dark red divine dragon laughed heartily. His mouth was grinning from ear to ear. He waved his dragon claws and took a high-grade primordial yang stone every time. "Rich, this time I'm really rich," the dark red divine dragon unceasingly roared. At this moment, a cool breeze blew and the high-grade primordial yang stones on the ground instantly disappeared. Immediately, the dark red divine dragon crazily shouted, "Damn goddamn brat, slow down a bit. Leave some for me." However, Lin Xian did not slow down and continued to move quickly. The little white monkey looked on in amazement. Then its eyes narrowed into crescents. It took down the small bowl on its head and smashed it on the ground. Then it waved its little claws. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. All the high-grade primordial yang stones in the vicinity appeared in the small bowl. "Damn my primordial yang stones." The dark red divine dragon saw the little white monkey smile and its lungs exploded with anger. "Bandits, a bunch of bandits." The dark red divine dragon's heart was bleeding. It was as if it had gone crazy and moved around the entire mine. Just as Lin Xian and the others were collecting the primordial yang stones, Wang Ling's team also appeared in the nearby oasis. Grandma Silverflower took out a map and said, According to the map, the primordial yang stones should be near this oasis. Alright, let's take a rest and split up to search, Wang Ling said. However, at this moment, the young leader's eyebrows twitched. He was puzzled and looked into the distance. Even Grandma Silverflower's expression changed as she revealed a puzzled look. This aura. What pure yang qi? Could it be the primordial yang stones? Grandma Silverflower was shocked. As for the young leader, his face was filled with joy. He shouted and quickly ran into the distance. Then he led the guards and set off. I reckon this should be the aura of the primordial yang stones. Let's go and take a look, Grandma Silverflower said. After that, the group of people quickly rushed forward. Not long after, they felt that the pure yang qi in front of them was getting denser and denser. Not far ahead, the ground cracked and a few fingernail-sized stones were scattered on the ground. The young leader took the lead. His body flashed and he instantly picked up the stones on the ground. Chapter 561. The guards were overjoyed and began to search. Wang Ling walked over with Grandma Silverflower. When she saw this scene, she revealed a gratified smile. Great, we are rich this time. However, when the young leader heard this, he snorted coldly. No, you are wrong. It's not us, it's me. It's me who is rich. The young leader's voice had a tinge of malevolence. The guards beside him also had a playful smile. What do you mean? Wang Ling asked in a deep voice. At the side, Grandma Silverflower shouted angrily, How dare you? Are you rebelling? Rebelling? The young leader laughed insolently. Yes, I am rebelling. Hearing this, Grandma Silverflower's face turned gloomy. She did not expect these guards to rebel at such a crucial moment. Moreover, the one leading the rebellion was the leader of the guards. What? Wang Ling shouted, Our Wang family has given you a lot. What? The young leader sneered. Stupid. We followed your Wang family for spiritual stones and resources. Now that we have found the primordial yang stone, what kind of treasure can't we get? Do we still need your Wang family? What a joke. The young leader's voice was cold with a tinge of ruthlessness. Aren't you afraid of the Wang family's revenge? Wang Ling shrieked. Wang family's revenge? The young leader sneered. Do you think the Wang family will know what is happening here in this desert? Looking at the young leader's ferocious face, Wang Ling was finally afraid. She asked in a trembling voice, What do you want? At the side, Grandma Silverflower took a step forward and emitted a powerful aura. I am warning you not to act recklessly. She is the young miss of the Wang family. Don't worry, young miss. We won't kill you. The young leader laughed. Following which, a tinge of evil fire appeared in his eyes. Such a beautiful woman. Of course we have to enjoy her. After speaking, the surrounding warriors laughed maniacally. Their eyes were filled with lust. Being stared at by so many eyes, Wang Ling's body trembled. She felt her body burning as though she had been exposed. Despicable. Shameless. Wang Ling shrieked. I am despicable and shameless. What can you do to me? The young leader laughed maniacally. His cultivation was the highest here. He was God. Listen to me obediently. Once I'm tired of playing, I might even let you go. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. At the end of his speech, his body exuded a powerful aura that contained endless killing intent. Wang Ling retreated in terror. She was only at the mid-stage of the spirit-detecting realm, so she couldn't resist this aura at all. Seeing Wang Ling's terrified expression, the young man laughed maniacally. The saber in his hand emitted a dazzling light, and he quickly slashed out, instantly tearing apart Wang Ling's loose robe. In an instant, Wang Ling's clothes were torn to shreds, revealing a large area of snow-white skin. The eyes of the surrounding martial artists lit up like hungry wolves as they stared at the exposed part of his body. Wang Ling screamed in fright and hid behind Grandma Silverflower. On the other hand, Grandma Silverflower snorted coldly. Spiritual energy surged from her entire body and condensed into a silver flower in front of her, which rapidly floated and rotated. Young mistress, leave quickly. I will stop them. Grandma Silverflower said in a deep voice. Wang Ling nodded, then turned around and left quickly. You want to leave? It's not that easy. Brothers, capture the little beauty for me, the young leader shouted. Then he waved his saber and slashed at Grandma Silverflower. A great battle was about to break out. The two experts were fighting and their terrifying auras shook the surroundings. Wang Ling's path behind her was blocked, so she could only run forward. Soon she arrived near the barren mountain in front of her. At this moment, Lin Xian, who was collecting high-grade primordial yang stones in the barren mountain, suddenly changed his expression. His figure flashed and he instantly appeared outside the cave. Then he looked ahead with a gloomy face. Not far ahead, Wang Ling's clothes were tattered, and her body was exposed. She was running toward him with a panicked expression. Behind her were 7 or 8 guards with sabers, who were chasing after her. Lin Xian frowned slightly. Everything was as he had expected. He knew that those guards were up to no good, but he didn't expect it to happen so quickly. "Young hero, save me." Wang Ling saw Lin Xian's figure and immediately shouted. However, the dissatisfaction and disgust in her eyes had long disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by a kind of pitiful look. Lin Xian sneered. Not long ago, this woman had arrogantly chased him away. Her attitude was insufferably arrogant. And now, the other party was actually asking for his help. This change in attitude was too fast. Moreover, she had 8 martial artists chasing after her. Most of them were at the mid-stage of the spirit-detecting realm, and 3 of them were at the late stage of the spirit-detecting realm. This kind of team could crush any late-stage spirit-detecting realm martial artist. Perhaps only a peak spirit-detecting realm martial artist could take them on. Lin Xian's current cultivation was only at the mid-stage of the spirit-detecting realm, but Wang Ling was asking him for help. This was clearly sending him to his death. If it was anyone else, they might have rushed over after seeing her pitiful appearance. However, Lin Xian was different. He was very calm and analyzed the situation clearly in an instant. He was still standing there, not moving at all. Wang Ling cursed in her heart when she saw that Lin Xian was not doing anything. However, she knew that only Lin Xian could buy her some time and give her a chance to escape. Therefore, she put on a pitiful expression, and there was even a hint of charm in her eyes. "Young master, save me." Wang Ling arrived beside Lin Xian in a flash. She purposely revealed a large portion of her skin, making her expression even more pitiful. When the people behind saw this, they suddenly felt a ball of fire in their lower abdomens. They wanted nothing more than to take Wang Ling on the spot. They quickly rushed over and surrounded Lin Xian and Wang Ling. One of the late-stage spirit-detecting realm martial artists walked out and shouted, "Brat, this is none of your business. Hurry up and scram or I'll cut you down as well." Lin Xian raised his brows and said, "I don't care about your business. If you want to fight, scram to the side." Hearing this, Wang Ling's heart tightened. The guards in front were furious. A mid-stage spirit-detecting realm brat dared to tell them to scram. This was too much. Moreover, what shocked them even more was that there was an extremely pure yang energy coming from the cave behind the brat. There was no need to think. There was definitely a primal yang stone inside. "Brothers, go. Capture that girl first, then kill this brat and take the primal yang stone," the late-stage spirit-detecting realm martial artist shouted. Immediately, the surrounding martial artists pulled out their swords and rushed over. "Scram!" Lin Xian shouted coldly. A sound wave carrying a terrifying energy spread out. It turned into a rolling wave that surged forward. Instantly, the terrifying sound wave sent the guards in front flying. The mid-stage spirit-detecting realm martial artists were sent flying while vomiting blood. Among them, 3 late-stage spirit-detecting realm martial artists felt their blood boil. Their faces were filled with shock. Chapter 562. Their combination was enough to kill any late-stage spirit-detecting realm martial artist, but a mid-stage spirit-detecting realm brat was able to injure all of them with just a roar. This was too unbelievable. Wang Ling was also shocked. Her eyes were filled with horror. However, she was overjoyed. At least she was safe for now. Moreover, with the young leader's temper, he definitely wouldn't let Lin Xian go. If the 2 of them fought, both of them might be injured. At that time, she would work with Grandma Silverflower to kill all of them. Then all the primal yang stones in this cave would be hers. Thinking of this possibility, Wang Ling was excited. The pitiful expression on her face became even more intense. She even secretly tore her clothes to shreds, revealing her alluring figure. As long as she could charm Lin Xian, her plan would be halfway to success. At this moment, another terrifying aura came from behind. 2 rays of light flashed. 2 powerful auras flew over from the distance. With a flash of light, 2 figures landed on the ground. "Miss?" When Grandma Silverflower saw Wang Ling's tattered clothes, her eyelids twitched. Her figure flashed and she arrived beside Wang Ling. She looked around vigilantly. On the other side, the young leader's face darkened when he saw the guards lying on the ground and wailing. These guards were very powerful. Apart from him, no one would be able to withstand their combined attack. However, all of them were lying on the ground and many of them were seriously injured. He found it hard to accept. "Who injured you?" the young leader asked in a deep voice. Their expressions were ugly as they looked at Lin Xian. However, they couldn't say anything. A mid-stage spirit-detecting realm martial artist had injured them with just a roar. No one would believe it if they said it. However, the young leader didn't need them to say anything. He knew everything from their expressions. Then he looked at Lin Xian with killing intent in his eyes. "Brat, you dare to injure my people? You're courting death." His voice was cold and shook the void. However, his gaze quickly swept past Lin Xian and looked at the cave behind him. He could feel a dense pure yang energy there. Could it be primal yang stones? The young leader's voice trembled. Then his eyes lit up. "That's right, primal yang stone, it's definitely primal yang stone. And there must be a lot of them. Otherwise, it would be impossible to have such pure yang qi." Grandma Silverflower's face was also filled with shock as she stared at the cave crack not far away. "Ha ha, I've struck it big this time." The young leader laughed wildly. "Little beauty, I have to thank you this time." He was simply too excited. If he could obtain the primordial yang stones in the cave, then he would definitely become rich overnight, and there was even a chance that his personal wealth would surpass the entire Wang clan. At that time, he could also use this wealth to develop his own family's power and become an overlord. When he thought of this, his entire body became agitated. An incomparably tyrannical saber chi soared from his body as if it was about to break through the sky. "All of you will die." This voice contained a cold killing intent. Obviously, the young leader was determined to kill. He would not let these people leave alive. Otherwise, if others knew that he had so many primordial yang stones, they would face an imminent disaster. One had to know that even supremacies would be envious of primordial yang stones. Wang Ling put on a new robe. She was still standing beside Lin Xian, but in her heart, she was constantly thinking of a way to deal with this situation. She and Grandma Silverflower stood to the side, not saying anything, nor did they have any intention of helping Lin Xian. From the looks of it, she wanted to let Lin Xian and the young leader fight, letting both sides suffer and then reap the benefits. Lin Xian was expressionless as he said indifferently, "I'll give you a chance, either get lost or die." His voice was very calm, without a trace of fluctuation, as if he was talking about a very ordinary matter, but the domineering aura in his voice was unmistakable. Hearing this, the young leader frowned and immediately sneered. "Threatening me with just you? Brat, I think you're tired of living. Don't you know how to write the word death? Fine, today let me teach you what regret is. I'll split you open with my saber, and let you know that there are some people you can't provoke." "Boss, this brat is very strange, be careful," one of the guards said. A bunch of good-for-nothings. I've raised you for nothing." The young leader coldly snorted. "You can't even beat a middle-stage spirit-detecting brat, what trash. All of you come with me now." The guards felt bitter in their hearts, but they didn't dare to disobey the young leader's order, or else their end would be very miserable. These people were holding sabers and swords, and their hands were constantly trembling. The long sabers in their hands were clattering. Even so, they still didn't dare to make a move against Lin Xian. There was no other way. The scene just now was too shocking. Just a sound wave had injured all 8 of them. This brat's strength was too terrifying, and he wasn't any weaker than the young leader. "Useless trash, get out of my way. I'll let you see what true strength is." The young leader coldly snorted, and his aura surged out like a wave, causing the surrounding guards to retreat. In his hand was a huge blue saber. The back of the saber was very wide as 2 palms. From the looks of it, it was obvious that this saber was very heavy. Sure enough, the young leader casually waved it, and it caused the void to buzz as if it couldn't bear it. "One move is enough to deal with you." He was very confident. He raised his right arm and the snow-white saber emitted a cold aura in the air. Then his arm fell and a resplendent saber light rushed out. It turned into saber chi and quickly slashed forward. Wherever it passed, the air cracked and the ground sank. It was a terrifying scene. Wang Ling's expression changed drastically. Her small face was pale and she kept retreating. Fortunately, Grandma Silverflower was protecting her by the side. She formed a silver-colored flower defense and protected her, preventing her from being corroded by the saber chi. This saber was too stunning. Probably no one below the peak of the spirit-detecting realm could block it. The young leader sneered. He could even see the scene of Lin Xian being chopped into pieces by his saber chi. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but laugh. But soon his laughter stopped. It was as if someone was strangling his neck. That arrogant laughter suddenly disappeared in the air. Not only that, his entire face was red and it was as if he couldn't breathe. The surrounding martial artists were shocked and they were dumbfounded. This was because they saw Lin Xian shatter that resplendent saber light with just one punch. The whole process was smooth and without any pause. It was obvious that Lin Xian's punch was casual. How is this possible? How can you shatter my saber chi? The young leader screamed. He didn't believe that his opponent could shatter his attack even if he was beaten to death. However, it really happened in front of his eyes and he had to believe it. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.